All right. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of your favorite true crime and criminal culture talk show, the True Crime Talk Show, brought to you by Thought Riot Podcast. And my name is Brendan.
And I'm Malia. Welcome to the show.
Welcome, everybody. So today should be a good show. We're getting back into some of the topics that we covered yesterday, finishing up some of the topics that we couldn't get into yesterday. And it's going to be a good one with some additional digging into some of the details that we started to bring up yesterday. And get enough of them. So I'm excited to bring you guys in on it with us. And as you know, you can find us on every major podcast platform. All you search for is Thought Riot Podcast. Thought Riot Podcast spelled all the way out on any podcast platform, and we will pop right up. You can also find us on any of the major social media platforms and some of the minor social media platforms. Again, searching Thought Riot Podcast, except for X. It is the odd man out, and that one is Thought Riot Pod. Thought Riot Pod. And we pop right up. So welcome to the show, everyone. And we are going to get right into it. Do you want to pull up the details of the Rachel Morin case? And we'll start where we kind of left off yesterday, just doing an update on the case. One person that I do want to give a shout out to is, Nancy Grace, however you feel about her, okay, whether you like her presentation or not, she has been on the Rachel Morin case and has been pretty good about staying consistent with talking about it. It's a really heinous crime, and it's the victim is a mother of five, right? Mother of five, and on a day, what seems like she was just going for a run. Okay. We don't have any confirmation because she was by herself, but based off of the crime scene and where she was found, it's believed she was going on a run and was, heinously attacked and brutally, ended. It's a really horrible. I don't want to give the details because it's that horrible. But the weapon of choice in that was a rock. Okay.
Oh, that's what they believe. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I would assume that
it's not really confirmed, but yeah, that's what we believe right now.
Yeah. Based on what the professionals have said, the one thing. So, okay, there's not very many weapons out there that replicate a rock in weight and shape and jaggedness and things like that.
It's also the nature of her wounds. She was basically unrecognizable.
Right. So where I was going with that is I bet that's one of the weapons that are more hard to get wrong. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah, I could see that. I could definitely see that.
So here, let me pull up a picture of her real quick, and then I forgot to plug one of our computers in.
One of the best places to go if you want to know every single detail on this case. Well, we've covered it throughout our old videos as updates have come through, but also the Harford County Sheriff's Office. And if you just Google latest, news release, Harford Sheriff's Office, podcast, anything like that, those key terms, it should pop up. And there is a podcast they did on the 6-month date after the crime where they released new details officially. Now, a lot of these details, honestly, we already pretty much knew based off of locals who actually found Rachel at the scene. Those details were leaked early on, but the Harford Sheriff's Office really tried to put those back under wraps and act like, no, nothing to see here. That guy's lying, they didn't want that information out there. And understandably, it was intimate details of the crime scene that only the killer would know. And I understand why they didn't just want that out in the public. Also, it's very sensitive information. But yeah, she was believed to have been running down the Monpaw Trail in Bel Air, Maryland, and basically just blitz attacked by this man who was probably waiting in the woods. They're not really sure if he was stalking her, but I do know, based off of the recent interview Nancy Grace did with her mom, that Rachel Morin lived by this trail her whole life. That this trail was a trail they grew up. Her and her siblings grew up walking this trail, playing on this trail. And it's somewhere she went and ran on a daily basis, like every day, pretty much would go and run this trail. So if this man was here any amount of time, they would know. Yeah, or he might have known. He might have seen her. I mean,
he could have been,
he could have seen her.
A predator.
Also,
predatory.
There's right, and I think you need to pull up his sketch. Like, I like having Rachel on there, but his sketch is important. This man has not been caught. He needs to be caught. It's very, very important. Everybody's keeping their eyes out, even if you're not in America. If you're in Mexico, if you're in South America, honestly, anywhere at this point, because it's been so long. Like we're gonna go on a year now, since this happened. So
is it a year? I think we're coming up on 6 months.
No, it's past 6 months.
Is it?
Yeah. It was August, like, so it's a few months. I think it was August.
Yeah, let's verify those details, because the only reason I'm asking is because I thought that
August 6th.
Oh, okay. Good call.
Was the date that she went missing, and they believe that she had passed. Well, what's interesting in this case is those tunnels. And that's one thing they talk about in this podcast is the tunnels that are there right by where she was found, because that would have made, and her brothers talk about this and they've walked that area. Nobody knew those tunnels were there. They grew up going to this trail and didn't even know those tunnels were there.
Really?
Nobody knew those were there. That was local.
What? Do they not have a lot of kids in that area? That's something that, like,
what do you mean? Rachel grew up on this trail. Her and her brothers grew up running this trail, lived by this trail basically their whole lives. And Rachel has 5 kids, and nobody had any idea these tunnels were there. Not the sheriff's office. Nobody really knew. It was something that wasn't paid attention to. Wow. It was something that in the summertime, especially, it was so much growth that you couldn't even really see them. Now, was this something that I would probably know about if I lived in the area and I ran that trail all the time? Yeah, I probably would, because I'm the type of person that's like, I don't stay on a trail. I explore, you know, I'm very aware of my surroundings, but not everyone's like that. But at least everybody in Rachel Morin's vicinity, the cops that have talked about this, nobody really knew about those tunnels. And it sounds like the way he could have went out through those tunnels, like if he had escaped through the other side, it would have been pretty easy to not be seen. Now, there's a crime that happened in Los Angeles before this, and that they got DNA from Rachel's body, crime scene, something like that, ran it through CODIS, and this crime in LA popped up, but there's no name. We only have this sketch now from people who are believed to have seen him that day on the trail, eyewitnesses from the LA crime. It's a, composite sketch. They did an incredible job on this sketch. But yes, Rachel Morin is a mother of 5, and one of her children is autistic, which is just really sad.
It's
like
horrible.
It's horrible for any kid, but autistic kids like really need that person that they depend on, like they really need them. They need consistency, and that's it. That has to make it even harder.
Yeah. No, I remember when you first brought up those details, and they were horrible, man. They were horrible to listen to because it's such a sad situation.
Her mom breaks my heart too. Her mom is so nice, and when you watch her interviews, it just is really sad. She talked about on Nancy Grace's show that she felt it that day. She had no idea Rachel was even missing, and was telling her daughter, "Hey, call because I feel like something bad happened to Rachel."
Yeah, and I don't doubt that at all. I've seen some really wild things happen in my life around people who have certain connections, and I've talked about this briefly before. You know, our lizard antenna that's in the middle of our brain, and the longer you're around someone, the more attuned you get to the same type of frequency, you know, and that's going totally tin hat. Maybe that's something we can get into another day, but I think that could add to like the story of her mom knowing something was wrong, or you know, her child, her daughter feeling, you know, disheveled, like something is wrong without her mom being there. It's just a really sad situation. And, you know, what was horrible is when this crime first happened, right? There's a certain community out there that is gaining steam. And I don't want to get into those details because I don't even want to talk about an opinion on that. But a lot of her images portrayed her a certain way, so a lot of people were coming out and kind of bashing her a little bit
in the beginning. That's not so much anymore, I don't think.
You're right, but I still want to talk about it because if those people were saying that in the beginning, there's a very good chance that they could still be saying those or thinking those things now. And in my opinion, it doesn't matter what type of person a victim is. When they're a victim, that's something outside of their control, outside of, you know, anything that they could have done, and the person that did it needs to be held accountable. So I mean, you know, in this situation, this man needs to be caught, and not only because of this crime, but there's a very good chance that it could happen again. This isn't something based on the severity of the crime scene, like how intense the crime scene was, how gory the crime scene was. It's all the experts believe that
dress has nothing to do with what if somebody attacks you. Like dressing a certain way doesn't make it okay for someone to harm you.
Yeah, 100%.
So to honor Rachel,
absolutely,
to honor Rachel, remember who she was, to continue getting this case out there, making sure she's remembered, her case is remembered, her name is remembered, and that this man is still out there. This man who has assaulted minors, okay, who could have done this exact thing to minors in a home in LA if he wasn't caught and literally thrown out of the house, which that video is just weird. If you guys haven't seen the Ring doorbell footage of that,
that's weird. Someone
look it up. It's super weird.
From our Twitter post that we aren't live in YouTube. I guess when you click the Twitter link, it's not bringing you to the live page. We have quite a few people in YouTube that are in here in live, so I'm not sure what's going on with that. I'll try clicking it and checking it and everything. But yeah, you can still watch it.
No, you shared it to Twitter, our live YouTube.
I got you. I was checking both of them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It looks like it's working. Okay.
Yep.
So I'm going to read a little bit from Rachel Morin's obituary.
Yeah, they have not caught the guy. They have not caught this guy. Man.
This man is on the loose, which is why I said, if you're in the United States, if you're in Canada, if you're in Mexico, if you're in South America, keep your eyes peeled. He's on the loose. They think he may have escaped to Mexico by now, which means he could be anywhere. Like, we have no idea. And he has done this before Rachel. He did it to Rachel, and who knows where this is going to go. They believe he is going to become a serial killer.
Yeah, if he's not already.
If he's not already. But the first crime seemed like a beginner crime, according to everybody that's talked about this, that's law enforcement. that seemed like a beginner's crime, and then Rachel, and it's this series of escalation. And we don't have a ton of details on the LA crime. We don't have a lot. We just know that there was a minor and another lady who were being attacked by him, and a male young family member who was also a minor woke up and made him leave. So probably like a teenage boy or something woke up to it and made him leave. And he left. That's why he left his hat behind. That's why he didn't have a shirt on, because he was suddenly just get out of here, which is weird. He didn't attack the boy.
That's exactly what I was going to say. And that makes me think immediately there must be some kind of historical trauma in his past having to do with women. And I don't know why you're looking like that, like you're confused. And almost every serial killer, that is what we find, especially the ones who specifically target women. Most of the time, it is either a messed up relationship with their mother, or it can be a series of traumatic events with women in general.
Yeah, you said historical, which is just a weird word. I was trying to figure out where you were going with that.
Well, we just don't know who he is yet. So, I mean, in the past, okay?
Yeah.
Like, so when it comes to him, in his history, there must be some kind of
definitely
female-derived trauma in his past.
Yeah, I agree. I think that there literally has to be.
Yeah.
So that's not what I was like squinting my eyes at. It was just a word choice. It didn't mean anything. But yeah, I think that he most likely does. I don't know how that explains him allowing a teenage boy to throw him out of the house, though.
Because one of them is what's it called? What's the word I'm thinking of? I'm drawing a blank right now. I'm having an ADHD moment. Fantasy motivated. So serial killers tend to be fantasy motivated. They have fantasized about this crime a million times before they get to the actual crime scene. So when something happens that doesn't meet the fantasy, like a boy, even teenage, even younger, even smaller than him, it causes him to change and want to stop the fantasy. It no longer meets the needs of his mental requirement for that scenario. You know what I mean?
So it ruined his fantasy.
Yeah.
Okay.
It ruined his fantasy.
I think that's yeah, I think that's possible. I think that's an interesting way to look at it. But anyway, again, he's not been caught. Everybody, if you see something, say something. This man is considered extremely dangerous.
Yeah, they say don't approach him.
And don't approach him. Just call 911 immediately. If you see someone who you even think for a split second is him, split second, you think it could be him, call. If you're wrong, oh well. Okay, the cops need to check it out. Ever since this crime has happened, they believe he has family, because it makes no sense. How is he in Los Angeles and then in Maryland? Like, it's such a weird place to go.
It's a massive amount of miles between the two.
Yeah, so they think like there's got to be family around here somewhere. They believe he's Hispanic.
I mean, here's something that I don't feel like has been brought up is, look, so they talked about how heavily of a gang owned area that was in Los Angeles, right? But based on everything that they've seen and believe, they don't think that he's a gang member. Okay, so there are actually other people that are not associated with gangs that the gangs use for long distance traveling. You know what I mean?
Could that explain why he doesn't have tattoos?
Oh, absolutely.
Because he has no tattoos.
Absolutely. I've known people that have been associated with gangs, and a lot of times gangs tend to, join up with their race, is what we see in Southern California, and whole streets are a certain type of race controlled by a gang that is primarily that race. Not always, but that's just what you see a lot in Southern California. So You don't want somebody that looks like a gang member that has like LA tattooed on their face or gang affiliated tattoos on them to be taking dope from one side of the country to another side of the country. So what they'll do is they'll hire and they'll use drug runners that actually aren't associated with any of the gang activity at all. Because what the most important thing is that product gets from one area to the other, right? So that could be it. Could that be why he's in multiple places all over? Maybe. I think it's worth looking into it, you know?
Right. Yeah.
And just a reminder, everybody, because I want to make sure we're staying on the same page with all of this. This is I know you don't like this term, but family-friendly show. We try and keep it acceptable to what would be found on like live television, at least on this show here. So please keep the chat matching that so we don't have to, delete comments or remove people or anything like that. Let's keep it PG if we can, please, and stick to the Thought Riot at hand here.
Elliot in the chat said him and his mom were just discussing who had bushier eyebrows, him or Bryan Kohberger.
Do you have bushy eyebrows?
I need to pull up your profile to look at your picture
I had
closer.
bushy eyebrows, but I don't think I do. Not in comparison to like some people out there where you're like, whoa, like that one actor we pulled up where that his eyebrows are at least 20% of his face.
Yeah.
20% of his face is eyebrow.
Yeah. Anyway, I wanted to read some of her obituaries so that we can honor Rachel Morin. So if you could put a picture of her back up. Rachel H. Morin was born on May 20th, 1986 in New Hampshire. She passed away August 6th of 2023. She was a beloved daughter to Patty Morin and late Ronald Zach Morin. She was a devoted mother to her children, Faye, Violet, Octavia. That's a really interesting name. Declan and Lila. She was the caring sister of Rebecca, Nathan and his wife Megan, Michael and his wife Shannon, John and his wife Sam, Josiah and his wife Megan, also survived by many loving nieces, nephews, cousins, friends, and family. She was Rachel was passionate about her children and family more than anything. Loved fashion and was a fitness enthusiast, often participating in 5K marathons and lifting weights. And you can tell, let me tell you, you could tell she was a fitness enthusiast. She enjoyed traveling when she could, and she had visited numerous places such as Miami, Aruba, Las Vegas, and New England. Rachel was the life of the party and had a special knack for making people laugh. Her presence was the joy she showed, and her smile, the light in the room. She was deeply devoted to her faith, which was a guiding force throughout her life. Rachel was described as a faith-filled, loving, and adventurous. She lived her life with an infectious zest, spreading joy and love wherever she went. Her life was a testament to the power of faith, love, and the human spirit. Rachel's spirit will live on through her family and the countless lives she touched. That's it. It talks about her celebration of life, but those events have passed because it's been a while since all of this happened. But I highly suggest watching her mother's interview on Nancy Grace. She talks about Rachel. She talks about how the family found out. She talks about what they've been going through, and she's done a few different interviews, like a Good Morning America one that was really good. I think that's the publication it was on. But also, her brother and ex-husband have been on the Interview Room, and their interview with Chris McDonough was really good. Okay. Chris McDonough has actually done quite a few pieces on this case that were really helpful because he was an investigator in the area where this crime in Los Angeles before Rachel Morin, where this perpetrator did that stuff to the minor child. Sure. That's where he was a homicide investigator. Oh, so he knows a lot about that area, which was really, really helpful in, learning about that crime. But yeah, all I care about is keeping her case alive. I don't want anyone to forget about it. I don't want anyone to forget that she still needs justice and that there's a monster on the loose. And who knows when he will strike again.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I agree.
But I will put this link to the podcast that the Hartford County Sheriff's Office did. I'll share it in the chat right now. I know many people have already seen it because it was talked about a while ago. But if you haven't, it's a good thing to listen to. I was really happy that they did that. That they had a whole podcast on it and talked about it and released more details.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
Okay.
Good.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, I think that we should get into the Sebastian Rogers stuff now. And I mean, have you guys seen that interview?
Okay.
What is? Give the rundown of the interview, because I've seen a lot of it, not all of it, but a lot of it.
Did you at least get to the part where Seth and him are on together?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I didn't get to the part where Seth had to call back in on his phone though.
Oh. What?
Look, that it was really long. I don't have very much time right now. I wish I did. I don't have it. My job is a phone or in-person meeting type job. So like I don't have the ability to have that playing in the background, you know, unfortunately.
I wonder how long that part is.
And my job can require me to work 7 days a week, depending. So
it was quite a long interview, you guys. It was on the channel Web Sleuths.
Here, we'll give them
and
we'll give
shout
them some
out
recognition
to them
here. So hang on.
Shout out to them. They did a good job. The only thing I will say, okay, it was all fine and dandy, I think, up until Seth and Chris were on the phone together. And then that was the point where my moral code started kicking in. Like my own personal morals were like, this is not good. This is bad. This is really, really bad.
Yeah.
And I was like, they need to cut it like now.
Yeah,
and some of them even started
agree.
voicing that. Some of them started saying, hey,
oh no,
I
no,
think
no.
this needs to
Actually,
be-
I did. I think I probably listened to 20 minutes after he got back on. I did, because I felt the same way.
Okay, so yep. So basically what happened, and you guys can see on the screen, Web Sleuths.
It's this one right here.
Great channel. You know, they do a really good job. Shout out to them.
Yeah.
And in this episode, they had the private investigators on in the Sebastian Rogers case that Seth Rogers, the biological father, has hired, which is Hannah Cohen, and the other girl is Chloe something. Well, they were chatting about the case, and then there was a part where Chris Proudfoot gets on about an hour and something in, and he is freaking out right off the bat, just freaking out. Is literally got on the phone, just started yelling at everybody.
Yeah, let me
and saying, you know, if you want to get things straight, then how about, you know, you only open your mouth when you're saying facts. And you know, she's like, well, nobody knows if they're facts, Chris. And he's like, well, that's my point. So shut your mouth if you're not speaking facts. Like, if you don't have facts, then you shouldn't be talking about it. And she's like, well, people just want to ask questions. And he's like, well, questions are fine until you start making statements that I'm like a drunk or something like that. And he honestly, his speech sounds slurred to where I think he is drinking in this. And it makes me wonder if the times when he has had the confidence to hop on one of these, if he hasn't been drinking.
And don't go down that road. Don't go down that road. No, there's no way to know. It's not even worth bringing it up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. It's just weird that this has happened twice now that I've seen. Once on Smiley Stories, once on here. Every other time,
it's probably
he was
just the way that he talks.
He was professional in every other, and I will give him credit there because he does bring that up. And yes, I do believe he was professional in every other interview except when it comes to this one and the Smiley Stories one in some ways, but that one was better than this.
Are you talking about mainstream media
Yes.
interviews? Okay, that's way different though. It's
a different setting. I agree.
Yeah,
I agree.
And I won't call him professional. Okay, I'm going to keep it as blunt as I possibly can from all sides. I don't think Seth represented himself very good in this video. I don't think Chris Proudfoot represented himself very good in this video.
That's what I'm saying.
I don't think that Chris Proudfoot can be said to be professional in mainstream media settings because they don't allow you not to be. These people are, when you're on mainstream media, you are such a skilled you're so skilled at maneuvering and controlling the conversation, not to mention they also have the ability to cut, freeze, stop, hold, reconfigure, that it's never going to get into a situation where it's somebody's actual character in person coming out in front of the camera that you're going to be able to see. So those aren't good examples for anybody. Like when you see Nancy Grace up on the TV screen, you think she actually acts like that? No, she doesn't. I'm sure her kids think she's the most loving person ever. She probably doesn't bring that tone home with her after that camera turns off. Like, that's not a good representation of somebody ever in mainstream media.
You're right.
Whether you're the telecaster person or you're the guest or whatever. This, in my opinion, is a representation of him and his character. And yeah, the whole beginning part when Chris came on, in my opinion, looks horrible. Absolutely awful. Now, I don't know if the interviewers were bringing him on as good faith. I don't know them well enough to know if they were bringing him on good faith, but he came on defensive. He came on argumentative. There were multiple situations where he had the chance to take a step back and say, oh, I get what you're saying. Yeah, I agree. He absolutely refused to agree to anything. Even when they were literally saying the same things, it was always, nope, you're not listening to me. I said this. Let me make it so clear that any dummy can understand, like stuff like that. He's very
condescending.
He is condescending in this interview, and it does nothing for him. Okay, and his arguments aren't even valid. That's why people think there's something strange going on there, is because we've talked about this a million times over, and I can pull up the statistics if it'll help this argument. But the statistics are, when a child goes missing, that it is somebody close to the child. Okay, it's not a Chris Proudfoot, it's not a Sebastian Rogers, it's not a specific percentage. It is the national percentage of data. When a child goes missing or is harmed, it is most likely someone close to the child, okay? So that already makes them possible suspects, right? And then on top of that, the few times that the public does get to see him genuinely, who he is and his character, it's in an awful light, absolutely horrible, awful light, where he's combative, argumentative, talking about punishing with a belt, not being able to say that he's wrong, not being able to take a step back and say, oh, you're right. Like, these all feel like red flags. Whether they are or not, there's no way to know without actually being there in person, but they sure feel like red flags. And I completely understand why somebody questions them. And I believe he understands why the public would feel that way too. Whether he admits it or not doesn't matter. I think he is intelligent enough to understand that when you come on aggressive, your best argument is not, well, the people that know, and everyone else needs to shut the heck up. Like, okay, come on. Really?
And then why would he be making the choice he is?
Exactly. I agree 100%. It makes absolutely no sense whatsoever.
Then he doesn't clearly know, because what is his goal in this? Just to be angry and yell at people? Is that his goal? Is his goal to try to get the public on his side? I honestly don't think that's it. I don't think he's trying to get the public on his side. I just don't get that vibe from him. In the beginning, okay, one of them said, like, they messaged Chris he agreed to come on or wanted to come on. Again, I told you guys in the beginning, he just was flying off the handle. And then they kind of got him into a level playing field for a little bit where they could ask questions and he would answer, but he was still extremely condescending and extremely just disagreeable and defensive.
To be fair, in this conversation, though, so was Seth with him.
Seth
was
said,
with him.
Yeah, Seth, listen, I don't know if Chris communicates like this most of the time, but if he does, I would have a really hard time talking to him.
I got to be honest with you, though. When Chris came on, Seth's tone changed to Chris to the point where I was like, what is that about? Goes from like,
what are you talking about? Seth wasn't on first.
It goes from like alpha Chad, okay, joking, right? Just
you
totally
mean Chris's
condescending
tone
jerk,
changed?
whatever. And then when Seth comes on the phone, his tone totally changes when he's talking to Chris. I mean Seth. So it enough to where it made me wonder why.
So you mean Chris went a little more subdued when Seth came on the phone?
I wouldn't put it like that. I just think that the overall tone in general changed to where he wasn't combative.
Yeah, for a minute
could
there.
Could that be because he has a personal relationship with them? I don't know. Could it be that he got on this podcast feeling like these people were bad faith? I don't know. All of those things are possible. I just don't know. It was enough for me to think that's weird. You know?
Yeah. So, anyway, so he did answer some questions. Like he talked about how he helped Seth get his job in law enforcement, that apparently Seth always had this dream of law enforcement. A position became opened, and that's the position Seth has right now. So Chris called him and was like, hey, you should apply for it. And that, Seth was in, and I don't know why he continues to bring all this up and then put Seth down for mentioning details that he believes shouldn't be out there. But I feel like he said this just to make Seth look bad. And he's like, then Seth is going through the training and calls me and says he doesn't think he's going to finish it. And I was like, yeah, you need to go in there and finish it. What are you talking about? And then goes on to say, I'm a supporter of him then and now. And, I've always been a supporter of Seth. But I feel like there's several things he says in there to kind of like, it's passive aggressive to make Seth look bad.
Yeah, of course.
But it's not outright and blatant. It's just passive aggressive. He talks about how Sebastian was not excited to go live with Seth. And that was because Seth was about to put him in online schooling. And we get more clarification on that later. But he also goes into how he's always been willing to answer questions as long as law enforcement hasn't told him not to, and that there is information that him and Katie have that basically nobody else has. He talks about how he did pass the polygraph and that law enforcement notified Seth on the Tuesday that I guess they found out to get Seth to essentially stop talking crap on Chris in public. And yeah, Seth didn't do that. He also goes into that. Remember we talked about the video where Seth and Chris, Seth said they're going to start working together. Chris showed up at the vigil. They had a talk. People said there was yelling, but Chris says there wasn't. And Seth says there wasn't too. So I don't know. But apparently they had a talk and then agreed to work together. Well, then literally a few days later, he was on Peter Hyatt's channel. And Peter Hyatt was just going to town blaming Katie, essentially. I mean, now it was in a like analysis type way. So he's not like directly saying exactly like Katie knows everything. He's saying there's a strong possibility, basically. But it did come off pretty blamey. And I could see why that would be upsetting to Chris and Katie after they just agreed to work with Seth. And Seth is literally sitting there while all this is going on and on the stream with him. And I knew that was going to be an issue. And it was. Yeah. He was very upset about that.
Yeah.
What do you have something to say about that?
As you're talking about this, I just want people to know that they really should go watch this, okay? Because
you should.
There's something here that you're not understanding. as Malia is reading these off to you, and that is the tone of the conversation. Okay,
tone.
so when he starts, that tone is so aggressive, and it just reminds me of somebody that's entering a situation expecting nothing but bad things to happen. And like, I get it, I understand that first touch tone, trying to feel out the room and area and everything and see what direction they're going. I completely understand it, but I will say that the hosts were very good and very open about saying, hey, this is our plan and this is our goal, and laying out what the expectations are during this conversation. And he continued that aggression also. And then as he's going through a lot of this, there are a few times in there, and remember, I don't have a picture of him, you guys. He wasn't on camera during this interview. So like, all my gauge is tone, which I feel like I'm okay reading tone, but there's a couple stories in there where his tone changes. And anytime you hear a large change in tone, that a lot of times when there's someone that is aggressive, you know, in the conversation, like that is their baseline, and then the tone changes, it's because there is a goal there. Okay, it might be subconscious, it could be conscious, I don't know, there's no way to know, but his tone changes drastically when he's talking about getting Seth a job, because one, the story he uses to talk about getting him that job paints a picture of making him seem like he's unstable. In my opinion, that was the goal. And the reason why I feel like that is, and there's animosity between these people, you guys. I just want to be very clear. And it's so strange because I'm not the type of person, I'm not trying to toot my own horn here, you guys, but I am not the type of person that understands how somebody says one thing, like a story or recanting the past, when someone's not there, and then when they are there, changing my tone and everything. I don't understand that. It just doesn't compute in my head. If I'm going to say something to you, I'm going to say it exactly the same, whether you're in front of me or not. And I think that's just something I picked up in my positions and jobs. Whereas in sales, it is too hard to try and remember what you said in front of the person you're selling to versus what you said not in front of them. So you learn real quick that you're just transparent all the way around, right? And that has bled into regular relationships and conversations. And yeah, hang on though.
Yeah, so oh, okay. So yeah, I think that the tone is really, really important. It's a it just feels very toxic, and I don't know, like, obviously emotions are running very, very high in this whole situation. And you know, we've talked about this from the beginning, saying we see red flags, we don't want to point fingers, but we're going to ask the questions because they're major red flags in both of our opinions. And there's some toxicity there. There just is, okay, from court documents, of, you know, claims of abuse, from this custody battle where there's also claims of child abuse and abuse, like DV. Well, the way Chris is portraying himself in this interview is not exactly going against that narrative, because there's a lot of situations where I feel like he's just straight up manipulating and gaslighting, if I'm being completely honest. And it's just so much defensiveness. It's so uptight. It's so, I don't know, just controlling. It's so controlling. And it sends up the red flags for me. Like, why is Katie not out here more? Like, I understand different people handle things differently. This could just be somebody extremely, extremely stressed. Extremely stressed, but I don't know. I don't know. Anyway, so he talks about that the tips, he complains that the tips that are going into law enforcement are coming in way too late, which is something that I kind of commented on last night when we talked about this. There was a tip that was posted on Twitter that was a screen grab from Facebook, I believe, a Facebook group, where this lady talks about possibly seeing Sebastian, and she doesn't like keep him in her sight and call 911 right there. She waits and hesitates. Like, why? And I keep seeing this where people hesitated. They didn't call right away. And then he's also saying essentially the tips are being sent to Seth and his PIs and not the cops. And so they're not getting turned in right away. And then the PI was like, well, hold on there. We're turning these into the cops right away when we get them.
Yeah.
So I don't know what's going on there, but I do believe that if you really truly care about finding this young man, if you see something, you call 911, you call TBI right away, and then you can let Seth know. Then you can let Seth and his PIs know. I understand his anger if he truly knows nothing about what happened.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, if you have nothing to do with anything at all, I could see why he would be so frustrated. But I don't know. It just screams toxicity to me. He talks about how they have information. Oh, I think I already said that they have information nobody else has. He said that 3 dogs out of what was it, like 18 that he said?
Yeah.
That it was 3 dogs that hit that same exact scent.
We're going to put the links to the show and everything in the description, you guys, because it's too hard to. Someone mentioned in the chat that it's hard to timestamp, and you're right. I'll put it in the description, you guys, just for anybody watching. So.
Yeah, after the show, definitely go check out that interview because it's important to hear the tone, like Brendan said.
And also, the majority of our viewers every night are not on YouTube, so it would be awful to be like, oh, well, I want to see what the link is, and come to our video and have to search through the chat, which, by the way, I delete anyways. So, yeah, okay, yeah, we don't use live chat afterwards. So,
but I thought that was interesting that he brought up all the dogs because they asked him, have there been dogs in your house? And he's like, yeah. And I think he said there was like 18 of them. He gave a range of numbers and he said 3 of them hit. That was the most important number to me, was 3 of them hit.
Yeah.
Well, then how did the cops...
conversation was so hard, man. I have such a hard time pulling any actual evidence from that conversation. I got to be honest. Because of his anger. Yeah. And that was one of them where he was talking down to the hosts on that topic.
And the PIs.
Like they were unable to understand what he was saying. And it's just really offensive to talk down to any human, in that way. It's one thing to have an opinion. It's different to assume the person you're talking about is incapable of understanding what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's just...
Well, he also mentioned that dogs are only 25% effective.
I mean, so yes, that I don't have the statistic up in front of me. Let me be clear. But I have heard a statistic very close to that, in the 20s range. And it depends on how you're configuring that statistic, whether that is a reasonable statistic or not. And what I mean by that is, if you're looking at every single time dogs come out to any situation, how many times do they pick up a scent? Yes. Then you're probably looking at a 20s statistic, okay? But if you configure the statistic of every time a dog picks up a scent in a crime, how successful are they once they have that scent? And that is a very different statistic.
I wonder where that statistic comes from, because this one from lostpetresearch.com says that a study found that
yeah, but that's
search dogs
biased.
yeah, you're probably right, that they found and correctly identified the target 91.61% of the time.
Yeah, yeah. And I think dogs are incredible, but they aren't flawless, okay? It's not like you're using an objective computer program that
Right.
doesn't know how to draw outside the lines. Dogs do. They have personalities. Things can make them go awry in any situation. But in most situations, they are so absurdly reliable, you guys. It is scary.
Well, I
And
see.
like, here's an example, okay? And I used this the last time we were talking about that, is during when we were investigating the smiley face killers, okay, there was one crime scene that was 20 years old that they were trying to reapproach and find new evidence for. And one of the dogs was on a boat, tracking the boat to the crime scene. It was literally picking up the scent over water to the crime scene and it took them to a like, not an island, I wouldn't call it, but a landmass, like a sandbar type situation on this river.
Okay.
And the dog led them right to it. And it was 20 years old. And the dog picked up a scent over water and guided them to a sandbar.
Well, the fact that they can detect a deceased body, okay, in water is so insane to me that it makes me feel like there's some credibility there, because that's insane.
I agree.
I found another statistic online, and this seems to be from multiple sources, that it's about 60 to 70% effective. And that sounds decent to me. Like, it could be a reasonable statistic on tracking dogs.
It's all based on how your mathematical equation is configured, though.
Sure, I get that. So what do you anyway, okay, one other thing that I wanted to bring up is that he mentions, they ask, like, why is there no video of anything, basically? Why is there no video? What's going on with the video?
Yeah.
And Chris says that it's too dark in their neighborhood for home security cameras basically to pick anything up. So then my question is, why does anyone have them?
Yeah.
Why does anyone have them?
Great question.
I mean, if you need street lights to get your security cameras to work and you guys don't have street lights, why is anyone using them?
Yeah.
Why aren't they all, like, a lot of home security cameras have night vision type stuff.
All my security cameras have night vision built into them. And I mean, we use really nice security cameras, but like,
I've had cheap ones before though, and they had night vision.
Yeah, I'm just sitting here thinking like where they are on the scale of security cameras, because the cameras that we use are a mix of stationary, visible, and hidden cameras. And I'm pretty sure they're the ones that you can just buy at like Best Buy or whatever, and all of them transition to night vision. All of them transition to night vision.
I don't understand the argument. I don't understand how none of them had night vision.
To be fair,
really
though,
bizarre.
Also is like how I set up my cameras is I set them up to where they're only set to record or alert on the lines of my properties. So anything outside of that line, let's say there was a child walking down the street, my cameras wouldn't record that. I don't know if yours are set up like that, but I think in this situation, a child could walk down the street and my cameras aren't going to pick it up.
Not everyone has Chris Watts' neighbor, Nathan.
I know.
Not every neighborhood has Nathan.
I'm not a nosy neighbor. I don't care what my neighbors are doing as long as it's not dangerous to me. Like, you do you, you know. I don't want to know nothing about anything.
Nate is the ultimate, like, he's just the security guard of the neighborhood.
Yeah,
he's watching every car coming in and out. He knows exactly who's supposed to be there and when.
Neighbor in the dictionary, and it's his face.
Nosy Nate.
Yeah.
Which honestly, he he did a lot for that case.
He did.
It was incredible.
He did.
Um,
I've got to be honest. He did. He literally, I think the cops would have figured it out anyways, because honestly, like, there was nothing intelligent about that crime scene. Okay. It was so blatantly obvious from every aspect of the crime. But I think that the cops picked up on him a whole lot quicker as soon as they had him in that room watching that security camera and seeing how he was acting.
I know.
Any cop would be like,
I know.
I don't even need to watch this video. I am watching the suspect here. You know what I mean?
Dude,
so
the way he was acting there was insane. It was so guilty. But
can someone scramble camera signals? That's just a hard answer, because can someone? Yes, it depends on if they're wireless. It depends on if they're hardwired. It depends on if they're wireless. Is it a protected network and a closed network, or is it an open network that could be picked up on other devices? So I do have a blend of wired and wireless, and all of them are closed networks. So like if someone pulls up Bluetooth, or if someone pulls up any network connectivity, those cameras cannot be found without having the device ID. So can someone? They can. You know what's that one bomb called? The I'm having a moment. That knocks out all signal. You know?
an EMP thing? Yeah.
Yep. So an electromagnetic pulse would knock out any signal. So like in a situation like that, yeah, it can happen. It's just pretty rare, you guys. It's pretty rare. So just recently, do you remember that AT&T outage, you guys, that scared everybody? And I think I created a short video, came on here and was like trying to help people calm down because there was nothing to it. But a lot of people were like, that was absolutely an EMP. And what's scary is an EMP is an atomic weapon. Like it gives off radiation, and it was so off that's just not true at all. That's not true at all. That's not how it works whatsoever. There is no atomic ingredients added to an EMP. An EMP is strictly electromagnetic. So
yeah, it was you're talking about when there was that big outage,
the AT&T outage.
Yeah, where they said it was all carriers, and that wasn't true.
And it wasn't. It was only AT&T, and it also was due to the fact that AT&T will never admit this, okay, you guys? I don't think any carrier out there would ever admit this, but they couldn't handle how many people were on their network, is what I believe it is. I can't say 100%. That's not information that would come out. But yeah.
Okay. Well, interesting. So yeah, once Seth hopped on there, it for a minute, Chris seemed to like back down a tiny bit. And then Seth said some things that really set Chris off, like majorly. And it just got really bad. And
this is where I want to be honest, though. I don't think I've heard the really bad part. Okay. I think if I'm trying to remember where I left off, they were talking on the phone. Seth had called in, and the host was saying that she will put him on her speaker. And they were talking about some email where, again,
Seth sent Chris email for approvals of a spokesperson for them. If he could have
such
dogs,
a bad look, though,
if he
for
could,
Seth.
Yeah, if he could have dogs come, back to the house.
Because again, like,
discuss that privately. Like, why are you bringing that up?
Privately. And number two, if it's that important, you could have picked up the phone too, bro. Let's be real here. Right. If my child is missing, then I'm going to be emailing, I'm going to be texting, and I'm going to be calling, probably in that reverse order. It'll probably be call, text, email, and I'm going to be showing up there. All of those things all at once. And especially if it's time sensitive information, like it's going to happen, and it's going to happen that way very quickly. So, I don't know. It was very strange. It was strange. The whole thing felt strange, and it made me look at the entire situation just a little bit different, and it made me feel for the cops a little bit. And I just hope that the cops are further along in this investigation than they are, because this whole idea that they're talking about, so the three of them got together and now they have a spokesperson for the three of them. What is that? That is, what are we talking about? A spokesperson? You're not really a politician. You're a family that is trying to use every single tool at your disposal to try and find your child. Okay. And anyone putting his father down, Seth, for going on these channels, shame on you. Like, all of you should be using your tools to get on there and worrying about your character judgment later. And that's me saying that while understanding that I'm reading his character and his behavior too. So I'm part of that problem when I'm talking about this, right? And I understand that. But there could be some visibility that comes to YouTube, because remember, if Sebastian's out there on his own, all it takes is him to see any of them one time to realize, maybe he left because he felt like he wasn't wanted there. I don't know. What are the million reasons that kids leave for? All it takes is one time to see one of those videos with any of them on it that could make him want to pick up a phone and call.
Yeah, and if they're fighting and at each other's throats and talking crap about each other, that might not make him want to come home, okay?
Exactly.
Because it sounds like things weren't going that great. So did you get to the part where they started talking about, like, basically, I think it was the PI or the interviewer said, Chris, before Seth was on here, you said Sebastian wasn't excited about moving to his dad's house, to Seth's house. And Chris was like, yeah, I did say that. Because we know in the past, Seth said he was excited, that he was looking forward to coming and living at his house, that he didn't want to go to Katie and Chris's house. Right? Well, Chris came on there and flipped the script and was like, well, he was excited, but he wasn't when this all happened, because Seth said he was going to make him do online schooling, and Sebastian didn't want to do that. So he wasn't excited about moving to Seth's house anymore. Well, Seth said, I didn't know that. I didn't know that he wasn't excited. And Chris said, well, yeah, you did, because all three of us, me, you, and Katie, had a conversation about it. And you know that. And Seth was like, well, the whole thing was clearly, and we don't know the details of it, but something was going on with Sebastian at school and in life currently. I think that's very apparent. Something was happening.
Well, duh. He went through a traumatic situation where he was SA'd.
But that didn't happen recently. So I know
that does not matter.
I know
you know that. I'm adding conversation to the topic.
Right. So that happened when he was like 7 or 8.
Okay.
In California. Yep. And he's now 15. What happens he's like 10 in his mind. Okay, he's not 15. Sure. So he's coming into like puberty kind of. And this is when these things can surface.
Exactly.
So I think that's what's going on, if I'm being honest. I think that's why Chris didn't want him at the house during Christmas when his daughter was there. I think that's why Seth was getting him help in counseling, because he brought that up. He said, well, I was getting him help in counseling. He was going to do online schooling, not homeschooling, but online through his current school, until we could get him to a place where he could go back to school. I think Sebastian was dealing with intense trauma that was never addressed properly, and it was resurfacing because of puberty. And I don't know if you guys remember this, but in an interview Katie had, she said she believed Sebastian was starting to like girls, but wouldn't admit it. He wouldn't come to grips with that. It's almost like he didn't want to talk about that.
Yeah.
And wasn't comfortable with it.
Yeah.
I think
I
this is
think you hit on some very important topics right there that I don't think can be overlooked. And you know what's interesting? I don't know if I've gone into those details before, but I've been very open and honest with all the people that watch us about my experience when I was younger and being a victim of child abuse, SA, when I was 4 or 5. And my memory, my brain blocked that out. I had zero memory of it all the way up until I was in my mid-20s when my frontal lobe was developing, right? Well, I did have symptoms, even though I did not have memories of those events. I had symptoms of those events, and yes, some of those symptoms came up when I was going through my puberty age time. And you know, there were certain dreams that occurred and things of that nature that took me back to that trauma. But since I didn't have memories of that trauma, I woke up confused and not being able to understand what was going on. So, you know, it just caused a lot of frustration. It caused a lot of just being over uncomfortable with myself in general. Like, there's a lot of things that come with it, right? That I wasn't able to take care of until later in my mid-20s. Once those memories came back, then that gave me the platform and opportunity to actually fix that trauma, because you can't fix something that's not there. So when I look at a situation like this, where it's a very similar setup, where this boy was taken advantage of when he was younger, and then now moving into puberty, it very well could be starting to resurface, right? Because as a child, you don't have those any drive sexual, like that's, it's just not there in you, right? You don't have the hormones that are needed to create those urges, and then all of a sudden you start having those hormones, but you have memories that are causing flawed growth in that area of your personhood, whatever you want to call it.
Sure.
And yeah, I could see that causing major issues. Major issues.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and you know, there's a chatter saying the same exact thing happened to them, and the poor boy probably didn't understand what was going on. And you guys, if this trauma, if this trauma had not been addressed properly, and according to Seth, it was not addressed properly. Now, Katie says different, but Seth said he talked to the therapist that was handling Sebastian and that they weren't qualified in this kind of trauma. So maybe Katie thought she was doing what she needed to do, but maybe she doesn't understand. I don't know. Maybe she didn't. I don't know. Like, sometimes things go miss. Parents make mistakes. Parents don't understand sometimes. And maybe she thought because he was already going to therapy for all of his other issues with, you know, his chromosome deletion, autism. He's in a lot of these probably behavioral therapy type, you know, therapists offices all the time. Yeah. Maybe she thought that was enough to get, like, I don't know. Maybe a therapist promised her it would be enough.
Yeah.
And she didn't understand that you needed a certain type of therapist to handle this kind of trauma. And it has to be addressed a very certain way. And with his additional issues, I mean, I don't know.
And here's the thing too, you know, what's interesting is, again, everyone has their own personal experience, right? I have a very hard time, like, casting a belief or casting a could be, should have, could have on another person out there like Sebastian Rogers. So I only have my own personal experience. But when that happened to me in life, my immediate family realized something was going on with my behavior and character, and something was up, to the point where they sought out a therapist, and that therapist never figured it out. Yeah, that's what I literally, nobody knew until my mid-20s, when those memories finally opened up and came back to me. And all of a sudden I have all these memories I had no idea were there, you know, but a therapist couldn't even figure that out. Wild, right?
Yeah.
Wild.
I mean, kids are so innocent. That's why it's important to have conversations with them, that there's never secrets. Like, you don't ever keep secrets. It's important they know anatomical names for body parts. It's important they know that, you know, nobody should touch these areas. You know, it's really important to have those conversations in case something like that were to happen, so they can describe it. Because unfortunately, when kids are, you know, really young and at age 7 or 8, I think Sebastian's mind state probably would have been like a 5-year-old, considering they're saying he was like a 10-year-old who was 15. So he was obviously probably going to be in a younger mental state when he was 7 or 8.
Yeah.
Meaning he may not have had the words to verbalize and ways to explain it and get it out and really talk about it, which could also cause a lot of frustration.
Yeah.
Toddlers go through temper tantrums and a lot of these intense emotions, not only because their brain's not developed, but because they can't describe what they're feeling. They can't tell you. They can't get it out.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. Absolutely.
It just makes me wonder, was he becoming angry? Is that why they so heavily believe Sebastian walked out of that door? Is because of things that were going on with him at the time when this happened. And, you know, I think it's really important to remember that he didn't sleep at night. That he apparently this was an issue his whole life.
Yeah, okay.
Even as a baby.
It
he
doesn't
didn't
seem like
sleep.
a symptom of that situation.
No.
It could just be a symptom of whatever
Chromosome deletion, something like that.
Yeah.
Well, he was not a good sleeper, and he would get up and snack. And I've mentioned this theory before, but I really wonder if he developed a habit of going out and walking around at night.
Mm-hmm.
And you know that also another thing I learned in this interview was that there's caves behind their house in those woods. And there were caves the police didn't search because they were collapsed.
Yeah. Yeah.
They were collapsed. What if they collapsed with him in there, though? Like, did they know they were collapsed before he disappeared?
Mm-hmm.
Or did nobody know that?
Yeah.
Because what if he, like, I mean, as a kid, I definitely went and explored the woods. I loved exploring the woods. You know, me and siblings and friends always went into the woods and did all kinds of things, like, and got into a lot of trouble too.
Yeah.
But I mean, in Tennessee, I mean, a lot of places in the middle of America, there's a lot of cave systems. Like I even know of somebody in Missouri who had a cave in their backyard that had an old moonshine distillery.
Oh, that's
and they
awesome.
had no idea until they fell in a hole and found it in their yard. Like, I don't know. It just makes you wonder, did he discover a cave back there? Did he do something that made it collapse on him? I really think they should examine that. Maybe they already have, but I just wonder, did they know it was collapsed beforehand? Also, him wandering around at night puts him at risk to get abducted.
My only thing is the dogs. I have a lot of faith in the dogs.
What do you think about 3 hitting? The fact that it's 3 means more to me. Why would law enforcement then come out and say it was a false lead? Are they saying that because they didn't want that information out there? Like with Rachel Morin's case, we just talked about her case. Information came out about how her body was found, about how the nature of her wounds, because somebody in the public, a searcher, found her, leaked this information to their father, who then leaked it to JLR and the news, and it was out there. Well, the Hartford County Sheriff's Office came out and said, no, none of that's true. None of that is confirmed. And they wanted to keep it under wraps. Is that what's going on in this situation? Do we actually know the truth? Are they keeping that under wraps for some reason?
I don't think we do. I don't think so. And you know, again, we've talked about this so many times when we cover this case. And the reason being is because this case specifically is so subjective.
It
is so drama filled. And
I know.
this video that we're talking about,
it's like the accumulation of all this drama.
It's the definition of what we're talking about with the problems in this case.
It's a peak of all of this building up.
I don't even know if it's a peak. This is the everyday. This is what we've been seeing
I don't know. This
every
is
day.
a lot. This is intense, Brendan. I don't know.
I don't think so. I think this is how people have been portraying these people every day. And you know what's interesting is the stepfather who got on this video, okay? Everyone has this idea of who he is. And what's really funny is he hops on there and he proves that's who he is.
I know.
By literally acting the way that everyone was assuming.
I know.
So that's very interesting in my opinion. But it doesn't add to the search of Sebastian Rogers. The Sebastian Rogers case is absolutely bananas. And people need to realize like how absurd it actually is. What could have happened? And I mean, Gray Hughes hopped on there and he gave a really good example of why this case is absurd. He was like, you know, in all my years of covering this, I've never seen anything like this, period, ever, point blank, where you have a child that was in a home, everyone thought they knew where he was, and then literally just disappears, okay? And it's around the same time they start talking about the locks. And this stepfather says that all the locks in the house were locked, but the front door has a keypad, a numerical driven keypad that you hit the code and it unlocks, right? So technically he could have left out of that front door because all the other doors were locked, and it would have remained locked, effectively locked, right? But understanding how unlikely it is for a child to go missing, literally vanish with no trace. 18 dogs, 3 of them got a false scent, okay, none of them got a real scent, weird. Shoes not missing. It's essentially like the kid vanished.
It is.
And it is so uncommon.
Yeah, it is. And I agree, Tara. One of the dogs following the scent from the house straight to the retention pond also is significant to me. But I do wonder if the police want to keep it under wraps for some reason, because it's Chris Proudfoot, and this is if he's telling the truth. And I don't have any reason to think he's not in this situation, but I don't know. He said three of the dogs followed the scent trail or picked up on the scent. He also said
dogs are pack animals, though. When I heard that, I immediately wanted to look into if one dog picks up a scent, do other dogs like
pick up the dog's scent?
Yeah, realize that this dog picked something up and they're like, oh, you know, let's follow. I don't know scent dogs well enough to know if that's a thing, you know.
Yeah. So he also says that they did produce the clothes that Sebastian was wearing at the restaurant and that whole day before.
The lock conversation was interesting, and that was right before that clothing conversation. Both of those were really interesting.
They were. And he says that they used those clothes for the dog scent.
Yes, that's right.
And then he talks about, and this is a part that's just like really hard to listen to, where he just keeps arguing, where he talks about the shirt that he was wearing one of 3 designs on his shirt. And they're like, wait, what do you mean? So you're saying he has all 3 of those shirts? And he's like, that's not what I'm saying. And I'm like,
that conversation closes without having a complete understanding of what was even said.
Yeah, you don't even know.
You have no idea what they were talking about.
Yeah, I don't. I didn't understand what he meant.
My assumption is that he liked 3 things. However, well, I guess I'll get on to this second. But he liked 3 things. So the clothing that he could have been wearing would have been one of 3 branded type shirts, whether it was, I forget what it was, Star Wars, something else and something else. Okay. Excuse me. But it's interesting that they don't know for sure. And the argument on the conversation was, well, if you had a shirt missing in your closet, would you know which shirt it is? And the return was, well, if it was one of 3, then yes, I would know that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think what he was saying.
And what's interesting is there's pictures of him in in other clothing and other brands. I think I seen him in a Hurley shirt and a couple others. I don't know how old he was, how long ago that was. But it's definitely interesting.
Well, and here's the thing is it, to me, I feel like I would know what clothes were missing. I feel like I would know that.
I mean,
if
I would know mine.
Yeah. And I think I would know people in my life that I love, which of their clothes were missing.
I'm not that.
But I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. It depends. So the fact he basically what it comes away with is that Sebastian was wearing a long sleeve black t-shirt, and that Sebastian liked 3 things, like Minecraft. What was the other 2 things?
Minecraft,
Star Wars,
and something. I don't remember.
Was it superheroes or something?
I don't know. If someone knows, post it in the chat for us. I'll look for it here.
It's definitely Star Wars and Minecraft, and something to do with superheroes, I thought.
Yeah.
Well, Marvel, I think. I don't know. But he said it would be one of those graphics.
Yeah.
You know, and they don't know what's missing.
So if I had a boy of this age, I don't think I would remember. I've got to be honest. Remembering my own is very different than, he
remembers. Yeah. Sorry to
a child. No, you're good.
Well, he describes the pants in great detail, that they were like 1970s style black Adidas with the white stripe pants.
Oh, yeah, my daily wears.
Yeah, so they're like that, and he describes those in detail, but then the shirt, it's like essentially he just doesn't know which graphic it was. He just knows that Sebastian liked these things, and that's usually what was on those clothes. So that's what they know. So I mean, I understand it, but it just got really confusing with all of that.
I would be so curious to know how many cameras are in their neighborhood, because I feel like those are listen.
Me too.
A lot of people look at this case and, like myself, okay, actually, I look at this case. I'll change it to that. I look at this case and I see so much subjectivity, so much gossip, so much drama, so much nitpicking. This happened then, and she did this, and he did this, and they should have done that, and belt this, and all this stuff. When I think it's happening like that because we're missing objective facts. Okay. Yep. When you see a missing person, one of the things you would like to see is information like, hey, this 15-year-old boy went missing. He went missing from what is believed to be from this time to this time on this date. There are this many houses in their neighborhood. During the investigation, we found that this many houses have cameras. All of the cameras have been checked, and we've been able to find nothing from those cameras. Therefore, we believe that he could have gone out in 2 different ways. He could have gone, through the dirt field over by this one lake area, or out the exit onto this street over here. When it comes to this case, I haven't heard nothing like that. Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Nothing.
It has been gossip and drama from the beginning. And again, if there's something in their past that can help draw conclusions and bring up objective evidence to help find this boy, good. I am all for any information. I say, if you could be potentially connected to a crime, listen, sorry for your bad luck, but all your skeletons are going to be pulled out of your closet. And I think that's fair. Okay. That's just part of being a community. That's just part of being a citizen. That's just part of being in the US. It is what it is, and honestly, when someone's missing, especially a child.
If it's my kid, I mean, and they're missing, honestly, I would just be out front and open about all of it. I'd be like, I got nothing to hide.
Yeah, that's hard though. That's hard because
I
they
understand
have some dirt in their background. I don't want to pretend like the dirt that's come out is small stuff. It's not. It's big really stuff. Embarrassing.
Yeah.
It's highly opinionated topics.
That's a good point.
Using a belt on a child. Okay. I think they were being super good faith. I think that Gray Hughes was being way overly good faith by saying 50-50 people would be okay with parents using belts. I don't believe that. I think you're going to be lucky to find 70-30 with people being okay with using belts. Like at the most, I think it could be even 85-15, like People nowadays are not belt using parents. They use logic, conversation, and things of that nature. Part of the reason being because CPS doesn't allow that anymore. So you can't use a weapon on a child. You can't use a belt. You're allowed to use your hand, but you cannot use a belt. You can't use a switch. You can't use anything even remotely close to that. So like that topic already makes him look bad. And it is a highly opinionated topic where a lot of people are already going to feel an extreme amount of emotions because of that, you know?
Yeah.
So wild.
Yeah, it is wild. And he did talk about what?
I just see someone bringing up the comment that Chris Proudfoot hates us because we're making money off of his kid. And listen, we've covered this so much, you guys. And remember, the people that were hosting him on, they made a big deal about not making money and the fact that they actually spend money
because
to find people. However, understand, you guys, that the reason why we're doing true crime at all is because of our opinions on the judicial system, on America, on USA, on people in general. Like that stuff is important to us. But yes, we would like to be paid for our time at the same time. That doesn't mean that both of those things can't be true at the same time. And I'll never hide making money off this. We are absolutely trying to make money off this because that's the only way that you can get to a point where you can do it full time, because you need money to survive, you guys. So if there comes a situation one day where somebody can do stuff like this full time, similar to like JLR, you know, how he's always driving around the country, that deserves money. Okay. No matter if he believes in what he's doing or not, time equals money. So that argument that like, well, how dare these guys making money off my kid? Look, our judicial system was built with us, supposed to be with us being included in it. So social media is what it is, and the situation is what it is. And our inclusion into the judicial system now just comes with additional factors as social media, like, you know, with social media. So
yeah, Chris brought up in that he wanted them to take all of the money they made from that live broadcast and essentially donate it to the case.
Yeah.
And they gave into it, and I would never give into that. I don't think it's a fair ask.
That's not monetized. They're not monetized.
They're not monetized at all?
No, they didn't make any money. So I don't know. I'm not sure where you heard that, but they didn't make any money.
No, okay, but they gave into that rhetoric of not making money. Like yes. It makes you holier than thou because you don't make money.
Yeah, that's not true.
That means you care more because you're not seeking monetary benefit. That's not how it works. That's not how the world goes round off money. Okay.
And here's the great example. America's Most Wanted. America's Most Wanted has the highest success rates for catching criminals, murderers, and the like. They single-handedly have done more than like 100 law enforcement officers put together. And you know what? That made them rich for it. And well deserved. Okay. They're adding a beneficial, positive system to our society and government, looking for criminals and making money doing it. That doesn't, because they make money doesn't mean it's an evil initiative. They make money, which supports continuing the initiative and actually increasing the success of the initiative. So yeah, I personally don't agree with that. Okay. The making money aspect means nothing, in my opinion.
Yeah,
I think it's all based of how you hold yourself, what you say, and the things that you're doing.
Right. And I think it's, I don't know. I don't know why it feels almost like a power trip. Like, you need to take all that money you're making money off my kid and put it towards finding him. I think it's insane. Are you making that argument to Nancy Grace?
Right.
Did you say that
your channel actually makes you spread less, by the way? I don't know if most people know that, but when you monetize your channel, you reduce your visibility significantly.
Interesting.
That's why when you look at channels that aren't monetized, I'm not going to say them, but there are quite a few non-monetized true crime channels out there. When you look at their views per video, oh my gosh, they are so high. They are absurdly high. And then you look at monetized videos that have the same type of concept, the same type of shooting, the same type of quality, the same type of things being said, and you're looking at 10% at best. I think part of that also is the whole bot issue you have on YouTube. I think some of these bots target people who make money to reduce that, and there could be a million reasons. They could be trying to get people to move to different platforms. They could be targeting certain people to get that to get what they're saying, silenced and not be spread as far. Ooh, that's interesting. I wonder if we could just turn off our monetization for like 3 months and fix any analytics. Is that a thing? I wonder. I'm gonna have to test that. That's interesting.
I don't know. But yeah, I mean, you don't make a lot off monetization. That's true. It's hardly anything. But
yeah, I think as our channel stands right now, I think actually, I don't want to give those numbers just because I don't know who's a real person or not. But anyways,
yeah, I didn't know that monetization decreases the algorithm. Anyway,
much, and I don't know if it's targeted the video or if it's the commercials that pop up and things like that reduce it. I'm not sure, but it does. It affects it big time. Yeah.
Well, back on topic, what did you feel like your main takeaway was from it? Now, part of me feels like the PIs need to get off of social media like this. Chris and Seth and Katie should all do media interviews to get the word out still, but not together where they can fight on live television, on a live podcast, on a YouTuber's live. I just think that it's a bad look. It was a really bad look for everybody involved in that situation. The host and the
shout
PIs.
Out to the host, though.
Shout out to the host.
Did really good, in my opinion, when they were being attacked. And he at one point in the conversation was saying that, he's held himself really good in every conversation he's been a part of. And he tries to justify like how he was acting in that conversation. And let's be real here. Listen, you are what everyone sees you as, just like me. Our viewers, however you guys see me, that's just what I am. It is what it is. You got to be comfortable with that. What that Eminem song, I am whatever you say I am. That is what it is. That's how life works, you guys. So when people watch that interview, they are absolutely going to see him as being aggressive, condescending, over the top, mean, a jerk. He used the specific word jerk when he was talking about it. Yes, he came off like a jerk, in my opinion, talking to these two very nice women that were just trying to have a conversation with him and were very pleasantly toned, monotoned, polite, respectful, and it wasn't a good look. It wasn't a good look.
It wasn't a good look. None of it was. And, I don't know. I just, like Simply Solo said, because of us, they'd be able to identify Sebastian if they were ever in their area, because there's no posters where they are. And I think that's important. Like, Chris coming out here and saying, if you have talked about my son, you need to take that money and put it into finding Sebastian. I don't agree. If you have a production, a show, like Nancy Grace, like us, if you cover the case, it's to do a service for the case, period. You know what I mean? We don't exist to only cover Sebastian's case. We didn't make our show to talk about Sebastian and only Sebastian. We're here to talk about this topic of crime, of missing people, and the justice system.
I don't think they should have brought Seth on. I agree with you. I think that they would have got more information and everything if they wouldn't have brought it on. But anyways, we're going to talk about it how it was, right? Yeah, when I'm looking at that, I got to say one of the things, I agree with everything you're saying. One of the things is that when it comes to this topic, okay, I've got to be honest here. One of the things that I thought when he very first came on, right, and that's where I started the video. Unfortunately, I didn't have time to watch the first hour and a half or whatever. But when he comes on, my first thought, you guys, was, did he talk to Sebastian Rogers this way when he was angry? Because he would absolutely refuse to listen to what they were saying, absorb what they were saying, and create an actual response back to what they were saying. And that is a problem. That is a huge problem that can make a child feel ignored, not heard, feel like they don't have a way out,
unloved, unwanted, not wanted.
What if due to his home life, gosh, this is such a touchy topic, he left to end things? You know, could that be caused from some kind of issue at home? I don't know. But what seems to be the issue here is a child disappeared. Absolutely, totally disappeared. Shoes, clothing, person, gone.
And no, WSU Mom Kim, we did not watch the interview, but we'll put the link in the description. It's important, I think, that everybody watches it if you want to understand the context of the interview and come to your own conclusions on it, because I think actually listening to the people talking is important. It's just, it was a lot. It was a lot. Honestly, I couldn't even believe when I was listening to it that it was happening. I was like, what? Yeah. What is happening right now? And I do agree, Seth shouldn't have come on. Not until him and Chris had talked privately and were under some kind of understanding where they could get along, maybe.
What'd you think about him answering for Chris and then realizing that he shouldn't have done that? Did you hear that?
Which part?
Where they were like, well, you know, Chris, wait, what's his mom's name? Not Chris. I was calling her Chris. What's her name? Katie. Okay, so where they said, well, would it be okay to have Katie come on? And he was like, oh, no, that's not happening. Absolutely not. And then realized after, like, oh, that is probably going to seem controlling or whatever. And then he's like, well, you know, I'm just trying to be a good husband because she's been through a lot of stress. When I've got to be honest with you, when he said that, my initial thought was, ooh, that's controlling and weird. Like, why wouldn't you ask if she wants to come on to give her side of the story? Because the whole point in coming on here is helping the image and getting the word out for Sebastian Rogers and helping people understand and connect to you and who you are. You know what I mean? And I don't know. That's just how it made me feel. It was a train wreck. You are so right. Somebody said that in the chat.
It was a train wreck, and it's really hard to look away from that. And yes, he said he was being a good husband and protecting his wife, and that he's not controlling. He literally went out of his way to say, I'm not controlling.
He did?
Yes.
Oh, gosh.
And he literally used that word. I'm not controlling. You know, she can speak for herself or something like that. And I was like, whoa, okay. I don't know. I think,
people who aren't controlling don't have to say they're not controlling.
Yeah. Look, like I said, everybody go watch it. We're going to wrap this up. You know, keep Sebastian in your hearts. Keep his family in your hearts and prayers. We need answers. Like, everybody needs answers when it comes to this case. It's honestly just so mysterious and heart-wrenching, disturbing, sad. Like, it's just a really awful situation. And it's really hard to know where the police are at in any of this. Like, and the thing is, he also said that they're doing what the police told them and what the police told them not to go out and search. They asked him, Chris, are you and Katie searching and putting up flyers? And he said, yes, we are. And then he said, well, we're doing what the police said, and that was to not search.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
no, they're not out searching because apparently, according to them, the police told them not to be accessible. And, they're like, well, and Chris or Seth was out there doing whatever he wanted to do. So I don't know, like, the police have said officially that they do want people searching.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also like, now I'm not local, but it seems like a lot of people that are involved in the case and care about the case are kind of being put down for caring about the case. And I understand a lot of that's because of all the drama and that takes away from it. But it makes the whole situation just that much more difficult. Yeah, it's a yes and no. It's like, yes, we're searching, but no, we're not because the police told us not to. So who the heck knows? It makes no sense. But yeah, I don't know. Just remember to keep Sebastian in your thoughts. I'm curious what everyone thinks. If you haven't watched it, definitely come tell us what you thought after. And look, I mean, there's just a lot of red flags. There's just too many red flags to ignore. But I do want to say that just because, say, Katie and Chris, say they're toxic, say they are, like in real life, and before Sebastian was missing, say they have a toxic relationship, or say they have toxic tendencies or personality traits, that doesn't mean they're guilty. It doesn't have to mean they're guilty. There could be all these red flags because we're picking up on something that isn't a healthy situation, but that doesn't mean they're guilty of doing anything to Sebastian other than maybe not being the most consistent, not providing the most consistent and safe feeling household. They very well could have made mistakes along the way. And, we're seeing all of that. And all of that is being put out into the media. And yes, by Seth. But this is one thing actually I really wanted to say, and I just remembered. Chris kept blaming Seth for all of the attacking on him and Katie. Like, well, it's because Seth is out here opening his mouth and saying things he shouldn't be saying. That's why we're being attacked and why everyone hates us. That's not exactly true.
No, that's not true at all.
In the beginning, Seth he was quiet when it came to Chris and Katie. He said nothing about them.
To the point where all of us were like, what is going on here? How are we just now finding out about these details and like nothing is being said?
Right. Seth was very cordial. He didn't say anything. He kept his mouth shut. He only talked about Sebastian in the beginning. And Chris and Katie were being called out far before Seth said anything. Many people were saying there's red flags there because of their interviews and them making statements that didn't make sense. Going back on things, saying things that didn't line up with what they had said before. They were already being called out. Now, did it get much worse when Seth started bringing things up like the essay, like, the whole bathroom thing, many things? Yes, it got a lot worse. It did. But their woes started way before Seth. So I want to bring that up because I don't think it's fair to put it all on Seth. And like Brendan said earlier, everybody has this idea and picture of who Chris is. And he came on this interview and proved that's who he is. Until he proves that he's not that, that's the public perception of him. And I don't know if he cares about that public perception, but if he does, I mean, because if he wants support for him and his wife, and he wants people to stop attacking him so much, he's got to lighten up. Like, he's got to get a grip on that anger and come out and talk like an adult, and stop railroading people in the conversation and talking down to them and everything he was doing, just being incredibly defensive to where you can't have a productive conversation with people if they're defensive like that. It's just not possible. You're not going to get anywhere with somebody as long as they're being that defensive. And I do think they were getting somewhere until Seth came on. But Yeah, that was the last things I really wanted to say about it. Again, I think that just because there's red flags doesn't necessarily, we could be picking up on something else. I don't want to point fingers at Chris and Katie like they're guilty of anything, because I think it's very possible that they know nothing. They know nothing. Like, everything Katie said could be true, that she, went and talked to Chris that night on the phone and went to bed and woke up and he wasn't there and know nothing at all. And maybe Sebastian went out wandering around at night. I don't know. I think that's very, very, very possible in this case. But I really hope, for the sake of everybody, there starts being some good leads. And again, if you guys ever see anything, please call 911 and 1-800-TBI-FIND immediately. And don't let that kid out of your sight if you can help it. Please, no matter where you are in the world or the country, just do it.
Yeah. And again, good, positive thoughts go out there from the Brain Trust. Okay, moving right along here. Let's get into, we've already talked some kids. Now let's get into money and college. Okay, we started this conversation yesterday, you guys. We started this conversation yesterday on Scott Green and the University of Idaho. Right?
Yep.
Now, it's very interesting, the weirdness around the money situation in this college. And we're talking about the Idaho 4 case, you guys, the 4 college students that lost their life in what has been deemed the Idaho 4 massacre, with Kaylee, Maddie, Xana, and Ethan. Let me see. I have a picture here. And, it's brought in a lot of attention to this community in Moscow, Idaho. And in Moscow, Idaho, there is one institution that essentially runs the entire city, right? And that is the University of Idaho. And there have been some very strange situations that have gone on with the college before the Idaho 4 massacre. There's been some really strange situations that have gone on in the college and surrounding areas during the investigation of the Idaho 4 massacre. The connection between the college and the investigation, who they now have a suspect, is Bryan Kohberger. For those of you that don't know, it's the middle head right here, right? I think most people do know, but just for anybody new watching that doesn't know, this is Bryan Kohberger. We've been just looking into some of the crimes and situations that have occurred around this college in general, right? Because a lot of times when things don't feel right in an investigation, when things don't feel right in a crime, it tends to be tied to drugs or money. Let's be real here, right?
Yeah. And I just want to say real quick, about the last case, you guys, nobody ever said Seth got a pass. Like, we called him out and said he looked bad too. There's just a lot more of Chris talking than Seth. But yes, the red flags. And did you say last night specifically, we talked about the article that it talked about where Scott Green funneled $7.3 million?
I wouldn't use the word funneled. We don't know that.
That's what the title of the article. It says U of I funneled $7.3 million to Scott Green's ex-employer.
Yeah, I'm going to let them take that heat. That's not, when you hear funneled money, that is a term for theft. We don't know that any theft occurred. I just want to be objective here. But yes, that article did use terms like funneled, Scott Coomer Green. Let me pull up a picture. He is the one on the far right of the thumb there. Used to work for a law firm. Most of you will recognize this man by this photo here. Who happened to be at every single one of the police statements that or announcements that had to do with the Idaho 4 crime. He is also the current and active president of the University of Idaho. He was where did he come from again? What was the company called? Do you remember off the top of your head?
You're talking about the law firm?
Yeah.
Hogan Levels?
Yep, I think you're right. I think it is Hogan Levels. So he used to work
trying
for
really
Hogan
hard to remember.
Levels out of New York, you guys. And when he took this position, it seems like Hogan Levels became their direct partner, to the point where we talked briefly about them paying a total of $7 million to this firm, right? And what's interesting is a reporter who thought this was weird and the monetary the money lines didn't add up, went digging and found even more weird things, like they were sent all their financials that were heavily redacted. Over 90% of the financial reports were redacted. They have no idea why they paid them $7 million.
And also, there was 400 pages that took them 2 months to get to them. Okay, they had 10 days to fulfill this public records request. It took them 2 months, and they charged this publication over $400 for 400 pages that were 90% black. Redacted that much.
Yeah,
that's insanity.
That charge is a little crazy, yes, but the redactions are the big deal.
Yes.
So for those of you that don't know, University of Idaho is a nonprofit college. Okay, well, they're supposed to be a nonprofit.
They're supposed
college,
to be,
okay?
right? Yeah.
There are certain rules and regulations that come to a nonprofit college. One of those rules and regs are that it is transparent, because the people essentially own it. Not really, but through tax dollars, support, write-offs, funding, federal and state funding, and everything in between. Okay. Well, one of those rules are that their financials are supposed to be opened, transparent. Okay. And they're using legal terms to redact a lot of this information. Now, one of the things we talked about last night is just the monetary breakdown of all that money and where it's all going. They had a whole bunch of money going out of the college, which was interesting because they were trying to buy the University of Phoenix.
Right.
And University of Phoenix is a for-profit college that is at a horrible name, has gone through horrible investigations and accusations that they don't actually care about increased learning. They only care that students pay for their diplomas, and their graduation rates are some of the worst in the entire US. And University of Idaho, for the most part, which is one of the longest running universities in the US, has a relatively good historical background. And why would they take this on? Why would they risk, fudging their good name and history? It didn't make a lot of sense. So we went digging, and I wish I had more answers for you. I don't have a lot of answers for you. It's really interesting why they would, could, or should make this purchase. Based on what we see, it was going to be between $550 to $650 million for the purchase or acquisition of University of Phoenix, which is a primarily online school, and it makes a ton of money doing it. And one of the things that we saw in the purchase agreement is that on an annual basis, the University of Idaho is going to pay the University of Phoenix $10 million to purchase it. And this is going to be an annual agreement to go towards the purchase of the college. But in the duration of them purchasing it, University of Phoenix is going to give them $10 million of their profit, and they are going to function as two separate entities
per year.
So in that agreement, what's happening is University of Idaho is paying nothing for the University of Phoenix, but the University of Phoenix gets to piggyback the non-profit classification and not get in trouble anymore by the feds. So shady. And one of the things that I was talking about last night, you guys, that I couldn't find, I found again and took a picture of here. I'm not going to be able to pull it up on the screen, but I'm going to read it directly off to you. And this is, hang on.
Do you know at least what website it comes from?
Yeah, the uidaho.edu. So this is where we were defining what their plan was with University of Phoenix. It says, and this is directly from the University of Idaho. Initially, University of Phoenix will operate separately from U of I in a 501c3 that is affiliated with the University of Idaho, but separate. University of Phoenix will remain an independent educational institution operated by its own president and own leadership team. Weird, right? Do you guys understand the connection that's going on here, where they are essentially buying the, or hang on, let me set this down.
Well, because it doesn't really make sense. Like the impression we got from this U of I buy, is that this software, the whole online schooling system, was going to become U of I's, and they were going to be able to use it to benefit their students.
Well, no.
That's the impression I got.
No, that's the good faith stance of why they're doing this.
Yeah, that's the impression they gave everybody, but it's obviously not the truth.
But realistically, what we're seeing here, this layout, is University of Phoenix has been in deep stuff, okay, for a very long time, for like over a decade. They have had nonstop federal investigations, nonstop local or state investigations. They have been questioned, and there has been accusations that they don't care about their students, that they don't actually give furthering education from accredited degrees and colleges and teachers. So they're essentially just a money pit. You give us money and we'll write you whatever degree you want. Okay. And the amount of money they made has been absolutely insane. But because they are a for-profit college, they have to meet certain criteria, and they don't get any kickbacks from the government, tax write-offs. They don't get any assistance from the feds. They don't get anything that the nonprofits do get. Okay. So for a for-profit school to transition to a nonprofit classification, they are going to be in heaven. It's going to be like, oh, you know what I mean? The difference. They are going to be left alone. There's going to be no more investigations. It is going to be easy and smooth sailing. However, why they're going for profit to nonprofit and how they are going to transition from that to this and still make sure that the right people are getting paid and things of that nature. I mean, I don't know, you guys. I'm not sure. We're still trying to figure that out. But what it seems like here is that the University of Idaho is coming in and saying, hey, we want to buy you, but we don't want to pay for you. We want you to have access to our nonprofit status, but we don't want it to cost us anything. We actually want to make money from you, okay? So we agree to pay you $10 million a year until we pay off $550 million or $650 million. And we are going to continue that payment based off the success and profit that you're getting from your annual, annual students and income. So you're going to pay us $10 million and we're going to pay you off that $10 million and everyone wins, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's insane. It's absolutely absurd. It's insane. Do I think it's an incredible business arrangement? Like, do I think it's legal gold? Yeah. When I look at it from the perspective of a businessman, I'm like, dang, that is an incredible deal. But we're talking about students. We're talking about universities. We're talking about people's lives. We're talking about the future of America, the growth of intelligence in this country and within the human race in general. And I personally just think that there needs to be very specific rules and regulations that shouldn't apply in the same way that corporate America is ran and apply.
So Phoenix is a for-profit. Is it considered, that makes it a private school?
Yeah, I think it would be considered private. I don't think anyone's guaranteed to be accepted, but I think everyone is accepted.
Okay.
But it's a for-profit, and so their profit is going into the owner's pockets, and they are being shredded because of it, and the non-for-profit status, it changes things. Now, one thing I wanted to know, right, when we were looking into this yesterday was that what kind of income, what kind of cash flow, what kind of money is going into the University of Idaho, right? That helps me gauge like how big we're talking here, right?
Okay.
So I was able to find their 2023. What is this? This is their University of Idaho, the 2023 annual report. So hang on here. Look at these numbers.
Whoa.
Here, if you guys can't see it. Look at that. FY23 total fundraising. $57,494,515. Whew. That is some big money.
That's all fundraising?
That is some massive money, you guys. I am blown away by this.
So, is there a way to like make a lot of money from a school?
I mean,
if you are the president and it's a non-for-profit, like, is there a way to make money from it personally? Who determines your salary? Like, is there?
So they determine their own salary through the board of directors. So are you supposed to be able to fill your pockets in a non-for-profit? No, you're not supposed to be able to do that. Is it possible to do that with loopholes and finance, white collar type crimes? Yeah, absolutely. People do it all the time. And one thing to look out for specifically are things like personal connections to businesses, like your new president's previous job, company.
Hogan Levels.
Yeah. Did they actually work for that $7 million?
Right.
Did they actually do anything? Or is it a paper printout saying this company did this and worked 50 hours for us in this way, and we owe them $7 million, but they didn't actually do that.
Like, is that a way to launder money into your own pocket?
Oh, absolutely it is. Is that what's going on here? I don't know. I'm blown away by the amount of money that I'm looking at here, especially when you take into account like the 4chan theory, you guys, right?
Right.
How many times have we talked about the 4chan theory saying that the Greek life is the what? How much is it? What was it? So $10 for every one, right? So I think it's $10 for every one. So people that are in the Greek life traditionally make 50% more in their first job, their salary, than somebody who's not part of the Greek life. Then for every dollar that an average college student gives to a college, somebody from the Greek life gives 10. So 90% of donors are Greek life donors.
Yep.
While 10% is the whole rest of the college.
Just like Scott Green, he even talks about in his book, he was alumni, and he was a part of a fraternity at U of I, and he donated his whole life back to the university and supported the university. Most of the alumni that are Greek life do the same. They consistently donate money back to the fraternity and the U of I and their college, you know.
That's so wild.
Yeah, I mean, the numbers don't lie. It's like this with every university. That's why Greek life is really hard to get rid of. This is the way the system works. This is how they support their colleges, you know, is through Greek life.
Yeah, I get it. I understand that's what's going on here. But it just drives me crazy because I'm left with the question of why.
Right.
Like, why in the Greek life are you stuck with this connection to your college? And I went to college, you guys, and I've never thought about it after I've left, and it's done absolutely nothing for me. My degree has done nothing for me. Everything that I've been able to gain in my career in corporate America has been all driven from my experience or my initiative, and I don't believe any of it has to do with a college degree. So why are the donors and people from the Greek life still stuck and dug into their university? It's weird. It makes people look at this situation and be like, tin hat on, weird.
Yeah.
It's strange.
It is a little strange. It makes you wonder, like, I mean, because normally when humans grow up and evolve and they're, you know, past their college years, I don't feel like it's actually that typical. I mean, apparently it is, considering how many Greek life still donate to the universities throughout their entire life. But with any other situation, when you grow up and move past it, you don't think back to it that much. Like, you move on from it. So to continue to care about it that much, it's like, well, how invested are you in the university and your fraternity once you're 50? Like, why? Like, don't you have like other things you care about at that point?
Yeah,
like
different eras of your life, like a family, like kids, like a career, like, yeah.
And other things you could donate your money to, like, I don't know, child trafficking, charities, you know, like things that might do good. I mean, not saying that universities don't do good, they do, but I don't know. It's just interesting that so many alumni still donate, like, well past their college years.
Yeah.
Very, like, literally their whole lives.
Yeah, I agree. It's very strange, and it feels like they're caught in a time that they're not willing to move past.
But it might not be that. It might be something like they make a pledge to do that. Like, maybe they pledge to do that when they join the fraternity. I don't know. Maybe fraternities are very active in calling and making sure they're still active and donating. I don't know. Maybe there's some kind of system we're missing out on because we're not Greek life, that we don't know why, because we're not that and we haven't experienced it. So there's probably, some kind of system.
Like, as long as you commit to donating a certain amount of dollars, I'll protect your fraternity and make sure that it doesn't go anywhere.
Well, also, here's the thing that I found out when learning more about the Masons a long time ago, is that when you have a brother that stops being active in the Freemasons and say they move, say they move away, okay, and they stop paying their dues, they don't go to a new lodge, they have literally people in the Masons who are then tasked with going and bringing those brothers back. They have all their phone numbers and contact information written down, and they will call them. They will pay a visit to their home, and they will say, hey, why don't you come on back? And if they have issues paying their dues, they'll figure something out with them. Like, there's literally people dedicated to going out and reaching out to those people and bringing them back to the brotherhood. So it makes me wonder, do college fraternities have a system like that? I don't know. They might.
Yeah. Do you believe colleges?
They probably have some kind of call system, I would assume.
Because of money.
All right. So let's look at the money. Oh, you're still... Brennan's casting a poll right now, you guys. What was the last poll? You didn't say the results. Is there a money connection in the Idaho 4 case? 82% answered yes. 11% said I don't know. 8% said, is that 8%? I can't read it. It's either 8 or 6 said no.
So is there a money connection in the Idaho 4 case? Bryan Kohberger case, 82% say yes, 11% say I don't know, and 6% say no.
And what's this new poll?
It is, do you believe colleges protect fraternities because of donations? And for everybody watching, we have quite a few people on here and watching right now. The chat is jumping over here in YouTube, and if you are one of the people that's on all these other platforms, one of the other 8 platforms, and you want to join in the chat, you can come join on YouTube. That is where we're able to excuse me, post the polls, Q&As, and all of those fun things. If not, that's okay too. Just continue hanging out. And the only thing is, when people give money or tips or anything like that in those other on the other platforms, it doesn't alert us on this platform, unfortunately. And there's quite a few in there that I've seen over the past 2 weeks that I haven't been able to call out. So if you're one of those people, we appreciate you big time, big time. And I am currently working on a system that is going to be going through the website, because we have a thoughtriot.com website that is being worked on, and it is going to fix a lot of these issues that we are dealing with. So just hang tight, and we shouldn't have these problems and issues for very long. And yeah, hit that like button, hit that thumbs up button, hit that subscribe button. For anybody else out there, make sure you turn on your notifications so that you can so we can let you know when we're about to be live and when we're going live. I did post our Discord invite a little bit earlier. And for those of you that don't know what Discord is, it is a place to continue the conversation. We're not done, but I'm just giving you the updates. It's a place you can continue the conversation and share information and investigations and details And it is free. It costs absolutely nothing and never will cost anything. And I just posted that invite link in the chat. And you do have to have that invite link. You can't just download Discord and search Thought Riot Podcast and you're in. You have to have that actual invite link. And I just posted our Patreon as well, which is another place to get alerts and updates. And we do have a free tier on there as well. And for all of the people that are on there that you know, graciously give to us every month, thank you all. You guys are incredible, and we appreciate all of you. You guys have been doing incredible work there, and I can't even explain how much we appreciate it. So just keep doing what you're doing, Thought Rioters, and we see you and appreciate you and super stoked that you're here.
Yes.
Okay, so going back into this, isn't that insane that total fundraising $57,494,000. So FY gifts from 6,742 donors, generous donors invested in 22 million in scholarships, 15 million in faculty, staff, and student support, 18 million in research, 1.3 million in facilities, alumni, 18 million. Corporations, organizations, and nonprofits, 28 million. Friends and others, 6 million. Faculty, staff, 2.9 million. Parents and students, 1.5 million.
You guys, alumni is 18 million, almost basically 19. And the parents and students is 1 million.
Yeah. I know.
That difference is absolutely bananas.
Sorry if you guys could hear
Parents/students donated 1 million, while alumni who don't even go to the school anymore donated, and this is probably mostly fraternity members, basically $19 million.
Yeah. That's exactly what I'm getting at there. Is that enough money? Listen, this is annually, not lifetime. This is annual, okay? Is $19 million enough to cover up some crimes?
Yeah, for sure.
I feel like it too. That's a lot of money.
Yeah, because here's the thing. Here's the thing. Where is it including not alumni, but just the fraternity donors?
Oh, they're never going to put that. They will never put that. No
So
way.
you don't think that's included in any of these numbers here? Or is it go under like...
Yeah, I do.
Does it go under organizations and nonprofits?
I think that it goes into these two here.
Okay, so they split it up.
Yeah, because you got to remember, so alumni would be any student, and the actual fraternities itself would fall under corporations, organizations, and nonprofits. So like, for example, if Sigma Chi themselves came forward and said, hey, we're giving you $5 million, which they did to this college, by the way, and we haven't got into that yet. But if Sigma Chi came forward and said, hey, we're giving you $5 million to build faculties or use in this way or that way, that would fall under the corporations or organizations donations. But if a student that was in Sigma Chi came forward and said, here, I had a really good year on the stock market, I love my college, here's $1 million, that would fall under alumni.
Yeah, and look, we got a good question. Does this include tuition, or is this just donations?
No, this is just donation.
It says at the bottom, giving highlights reflect all sources of private support for the University of Idaho in accordance with guidelines established by CASE, which stands for Council for Advancement and Support of Education. These guidelines allow for counting certain private support that is not included in the foundation giving totals.
Yeah. What, is that not insane?
So there's things that aren't included here is what that says, and that this is private
Yeah.
donation, private support.
Yeah.
None of this is tuition.
No.
This is just donations.
Correct. And I think you guys are feeling the same way I am, where when I saw that number, 57 million, I was like, oh, for a year? Oh my gosh. That's insane. They were given $57 million.
And probably
in 1
more.
year.
Probably more than that we don't know about. Because they don't have to include it all, apparently.
So much money. And I started thinking, like, okay, you guys, let's go tin hat here for a minute, right? Is a nonprofit college a great way to wash money?
Sounds like it to me.
It kind of sounds like it. That's super tin hat, and I understand that. And I have absolutely no basis to stand my own 2 feet on that idea. But it sure feels like it could be a really good platform or a really good setup to wash money.
It does. It really does. Can I do my launder there for free? I mean laundry. Right? Exactly. It feels this way. Yes. It feels like it would be a really good way to have money not even questioned.
I agree with you. I agree with you. And
unfortunately for them,
terrifying idea.
Unfortunately for them, this crime that everyone is obsessed with happened and they got involved in it. And now they're under the microscope by literally probably oh, gosh, how many people do you think? Like 1 million people are digging into this case. I swear. It's a lot of people care about this case. Oh, look, Kaylee Gonzalez Scholarship Endowment is at the top.
Yep. So this is the foundation. The foundation appreciates.
You might want to make this full screen because I feel like people aren't going to be able to read it.
Okay.
Just zoom out a little. There. Oh, no. It's okay.
Wait, I might be able to zoom in one more.
Yeah.
Let's see. Nope. Okay.
That's good. I don't know.
Yep. Okay.
Whatever.
So the foundation appreciates the generous donors who contributed $13.2 million to endowments in FY 2023, growing the endowment to $396 million. From the investment, over $14.6 million was distributed to the university. Almost $7 million established and funded the following 59 new endowments. Alpine 4-H Camp Endowment, Kaylee Gonzalez Scholarship Endowment, and if I hack any of these names,
we don't have to say all of them, do we?
No, we don't.
There's the Ethan Chapin. Look, Ethan Chapin's down there.
Hands-on Endowment, Teresa P. Gordon, Robert Olson.
Look, go to Ethan Chapin, and there's Xana.
Halls, Bradford, Jenny. So Brown Soil, College of Law Scholarship Endowment, Vandal Athletics Endowment, scholarship, graduate student endowment, excellence in fisheries. I don't know what that means, but I'm guessing fishing. Ethan Chapin Scholarship Endowment, track and field endowment, athletic scholarship endowment, law scholarship endowment, Xana Kernodle Scholarship Endowment, Don Royster College of Law Endowment, Basketball Endowment, Memorial Scholarship Endowment. What else we got? Ooh, Diabetes Scholarship Endowment.
What? That is not what that says.
Yes, it is. Oh, it says dietetics. That's super funny.
It is not diabetic. That'd be nice, though.
It would be a nice one. Your Government Leadership Endowment, Vandal Success, Engineering, Mary Kay.
Confirmed. U of I doesn't care about diabetics.
WWAMI. What would...
Right? Where's Hudson Lindau's endowment? Right? Where's his?
Scholarship endowment.
Oh, I see Maddie Mae Mogan.
What is WWAMI?
That sounds like a news.
What would AMI?
I don't know what WWAMI means.
This one is Maddie Mogan Scholarship Endowment. Okay. Vandals, success, chemistry.
I knew a Mooney once.
Interesting. A place to honor, reflect, and heal.
What?
Foundation financial statement.
What? That was literally about. Go back up. That was about the crime.
Idaho 4?
Yeah.
Okay, here, read it real quick. I gotta use the restroom again.
Okay, so this page is literally about the memorial garden. So it says it's a sad reality that we lose students each year to various unfortunate circumstances. In the wake of such tragedy, families and friends often want to find a way to honor their lost loved ones. The Vandal Healing Garden and Memorial will be a place on the Moscow campus for the Vandal family to honor all U of I students who have passed. College of Art and Architecture and other students are deeply involved in the process of developing concepts and designs. Overall, the project will be a collaborative effort with students, employees, alumni, and community members. One generous donor has given $100,000 to support the project, and others are making gifts to fund both construction and ongoing care for this very special space. Learn more at idaho.edu/giving/healing-garden-memorial. So, it's interesting. This was an interesting conversation that I saw being had on Chris McDonough. I think it was when the Gonzalez family went on Chris McDonough's show, where they talked about the healing garden and how it went from a thing that was for the Idaho 4 and then changed to a thing that is for all students, and they're not even using the victims of the Idaho 4 massacres names for this anymore. They're not saying this is a healing garden for Kaylee, Maddie, Xana, and Ethan. They're not saying that. They're saying it's just for all who have lost their lives. And while there's many more students in this town and the university that have lost their lives that I think should be honored, to say it's for the Idaho 4 victims and then essentially take that back and walk that back, I don't know how I feel about that. Like, you just promised that to their families, that this is a garden dedicated to them. This is by far the worst tragedy they've ever had, ever. And to say it's dedicated to them and then to walk that back and say, oh, nah, never mind, it's for anybody who's died, comes across kind of crappy. I'm not going to lie. Like, it, as a parent, I would be like, of one of these victims, I would be like, ouch. Ouch, that hurts. Like, it sounds like you acted like you wanted to be supportive and then actually you didn't want to be supportive. And while this may feel good to all the people, like all the students who are getting to collaborate on this and actually build this, it may feel good for them, but it's just really weird to me to say it's for the Idaho 4 and then be like, oh no, it's for everybody.
Yeah.
They're not using their names anymore for the memorial garden.
I know.
That's bizarre.
Yeah.
Do you think that can be fraudulent somehow? Because, you know, Brendan,
putting names on something doesn't make it fraudulent or not.
I think it absolutely could, because you know what they did? They started selling things with the Idaho 4 victims' names on it to fund this memorial garden. They raised donations using this crime and these victims' names and are now not using their names on the actual garden that they fundraised all this money for.
Okay, that could be accidentally fraudulent too, though. Whereas they thought about it after the fact. I'm not trying to cover for them. I'm just thinking of other reasons too. And I think that it's a very real possibility that maybe this idea had a life of its own and became something very quick. And then all of a sudden Scott Green or somebody else realized, like, whoa, do we want a forever memory of this crime on our campus? You know what I mean? And maybe they changed it. Does it make it right? No,
It's
absolutely
not.
not. And I feel for the victims' families. I feel for the Gonzalez's. I feel for the Mogans. I feel for the Chapins. I feel for the Kernodles. Like that sucks. I think that they've been wish-washed around a whole lot the whole time. And again, I've been one of the I actually I shouldn't word it like that. I've been an advocate for the Gonzalez's in understanding that trauma
and grief
is so hard to hold someone to a specific set of behaviors or actions. So like, I don't care what they do. They're going through something that is unimaginable, absolutely and totally unimaginable. And I think that as people, as fellow humans, we should be understanding to that, even if the most bizarre stuff ever comes out of their mouths and it doesn't, 1 + 1 doesn't equal 2. Like, okay, they lost a massive piece of their life.
Forever, yeah. Elliot said it really well in the chat. He said they could easily say something like, in memory of Kaylee, Maddie, Ethan, and Xana, as well as all other souls that they've lost. Like, they could include everyone while not taking these victims' names off of it. Like, they could include everybody and still keep the names. Like, I just don't understand fundraising all that money, using their names, and then taking them off of the garden. Like, it
feels weird.
It feels like they just want to bury this crime forever,
agree.
which is bizarre to me.
I
Why
agree.
do you so badly want everyone to forget this ever happened?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah. And I mean, if we're being real here, let's play on sociology.
It's impossible. It's not possible.
Yeah, let's play on sociology just for a quick minute. So whoever came up with this idea that they can bury this crime, obviously you don't have much experience in anything psychology related, therapy related, sociology related, because the second you try to make people not do something, it's going to become the centerpiece. Okay. And the example we always go back to is drugs. As long as humans have been around, drugs have been a thing, you guys. Mind-altering substances have been a thing. The more the government and the states and anybody try to not regulate, but tell people they can't do them, the more people do them, okay? And that's just the easiest, biggest example that most people can relate to. That's why I use that example. But that is a very good example. Look at the war on drugs. If anything should have stopped dope from being used and spread around, it's the war on drugs, right? Did it? No way. Our rates right now, right this second, are worse than they've ever been. And not because the war on drugs is over, but because it happened. That's why. So, in this situation, yeah, continue pushing, trying to bury this, trying to make it seem like it never happened. It's only going to be more recognized. It's only going to be talked about more.
Right.
You need to recognize it and close the book. And I think, yeah, an honorary place, or I don't even know what this looks like. I need to pull a picture of it, but
it's not built yet.
I know, but there are pictures of the layout out there, I'm pretty sure. But this could have been a really good thing to do that, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting, but the money blows me away. Absolutely blows me away. Did you go through any of this?
No, not yet. I just read the Memorial Garden thing.
Okay. So remember, you guys, we saw And for those of you that don't know, those of you that are actually on YouTube specifically, I think we got a few hundred or something. So we do have a poll out there right now that do you believe colleges protect fraternities? Yes, no, I don't know.
Because of donations. Yeah.
Yeah. So condensed statements of net position. So assets in 2022 versus 2023, cash and cash equivalents. So they have essentially 33 million in 2022, and they now in 2023 have 38.3 million. Interesting. Accrued interest and other receivables. Where did that come from then? In 2022 is 678,000. In 2023, it was 265,000. Promises to give 2022, 9 million, 2023, 7 million. Okay, so investments. So they increase their investments, but there's no way that you got that additional payout. I'm just curious how there's a $6 million difference when most of this left side is less than what you see on the right. So like, except for here, so investments 20, yeah, that too. Investments in 2022 is 390 million. $390 million.
And investments?
2023 is $413 million. So this is what's interesting here, okay, for people that aren't like super savvy, which I'll keep reading, maybe it'll make more sense. This is the first time I looked at this, but for people that aren't super savvy on like corporate records like P&Ls, financial statements, breakdowns, annuals, if you see a massive cash or cash equivalent, this could be anything that's liquid and available, there's a massive increase, but none of the other asset expenditures or receivables are increased. That's kind of strange. You want to understand where that additional $6 million came from. Now, when you look down here, in a lot of these holdings, I mean, you have a pretty substantial jump here. You're almost looking at a $25 million increase. Okay, where did that additional $25 million come from?
Somebody said in the chat COVID, like maybe 22 was down because of COVID, and then it just came back up.
It was down, but based on what they claim, it wasn't that down. Because right now, the University of Idaho, which I got to say, I don't believe, okay, I do not. And that's based off math that I looked into during the quarter that we're talking about, the semester we're talking about. They said that they were down over 20%. The math that I had says they were down like 18 or 19%, their students. But then when you look after the semester was over, they claim they had the best semester they've ever had. It doesn't make sense. That doesn't add up. If you're mid-semester and your enrollment is down 20%, but after the semester, your enrollment's all of a sudden up, and not only up, but the best semester you've ever had. Again, as a corporate type person, I need to understand where and why. Where did that happen and why did that happen? Did you realize halfway through the semester you were like, oh shoot, this is going to look really bad, especially when I'm trying to purchase a massive organization, the University of Phoenix, so I need to correct this so everything looks like it's in order and it looks like I'm not risking anything. So come here, international students, come over to this the Moscow location, all you other students. Hey, school, can you transfer me over people? I need to pad my books here. Like, that's what it felt like to me when I was looking at the current semester's numbers versus after post semester. It looked like they were padded to me. Strange.
It's not good.
Yeah, and now we see a massive increase here of $25 million. And I'm just curious where. I need to rip out some calculator here and get to work because look, so I knew it was gonna say gifts. No, gifts is reduced. Okay. So change in fair value of investments. Okay. So they're claiming they lost 32 million in investments. I wonder if we could total up the money given. Do you think it's going to equal 32 million? Where'd that 32 million go?
They're claiming they lost $32 million in 2022?
Yeah. Yes. Yep. On books like P&L, negatives are always parentheses. So yes, they're claiming they lost $32 million in 2022. Now remember, we're not looking at a difference of $18 million here, you guys. Hang on. So we're looking at a difference of 50 million. So not only are they claiming they lost 32 million, but the difference between 32 million to positive 18 million is $50 million. Is that not strange? I need to go back and look at their 2021 books, man. But this right here, as an investigative reporter, I would look at this and be like, I need these numbers. I need to see your books. Something strange.
Okay.
Something is strange here. Because this does not look right to me. I want to understand. I want to understand how you go. So is change in the fair value of investments, is this at a okay. I understand how it could be now, depending on what their position is. Okay, so let's say, I just had to think this through for a minute. It depends on where their status quo was. So let's say status quo, when they're counting this total, these totals right here, is $100 million. Okay, so one thing that they could do is in 2022, if they lost 32 million out of $100 million, then they would claim that loss of 32 million, right?
Okay.
But for the next year of 2023, where does their baseline start? Does their baseline start at the 100 minus 32, which puts you at what, 68? So are they counting they're positive 18 million from 68 million, or are they claiming their gross net is 18 million from, you know, year over, not year over year, but day one of FY23? I don't know, but the books would help understand that. So investment income, I wonder what that could be. Change in fair value of investments when they're claiming their investment income is still 7 million. Gifts 2022, $47 million. 28 million. Expenses 22 is 13 million, 23 14 million. Okay, that's within reasonable. Distribution to university and affiliates 20 million, 12 million.
Oh, that went down a lot.
Yeah, sure did.
Maybe because of COVID, though. Like, if they were still having to do all these COVID precautions, don't you think that would make the numbers higher in the COVID years?
One thing that I've heard about Scott Green is that Scott Green came in there and reduced everything across the board, essentially tried to protect the bottom line of the organization. So what he did is he started condensing departments. He started condensing the science department, athletic departments, getting rid of people, and giving certain people more more work, essentially, reducing, which maybe that's great in business, but in university, I don't know, man.
So
it's a weird.
Kim in the chat asked, well, she said they lowered entry parameters and 3 scholarship. Oh gosh, it's going away. 3 scholarships at people, and then said, what does insider trading look like? Not accusing, just asking. Green isn't a trader anymore. Like, could that have to do with the trading at all with the stock market?
No. So this isn't a public company like that. But could they have conducted insider trading for University of Phoenix? Yeah, the University of Phoenix was a public company. So what? Okay.
So it was public on the stock market.
Yeah. Insider trading, you guys, is so the stock market goes up and down based on the health, income, security, technology of companies. So like, let's say a company's worth is $100 a share on the stock market, and they're about to come into a world-changing technology that is going to absolutely change the face of this earth, okay? People that insider trading would be letting people know this crazy thing is about to happen, so you know where to place your income and money. That's just one example, but there are so many examples out there.
It's companies cheating, letting somebody know this new tech is coming. Put your money in our stock so that you make money.
Yeah, and then you could also do it. It could also have to do with the actual trading of the assets of the company as well. Like, there's a lot of types of trading fraud that can happen that gets characterized as insider trading.
Okay. So so two interesting things that were mentioned that we'll have to look more into. Kate said they were awarded $55 million grant last year for climate smart agriculture. And Chief said it's a land grant university, so still gets money from indigenous land and over $300 million endowment.
Oh, that's really good to know. I didn't know that. Okay, it must be right here, this restricted non-expendable, maybe. So liabilities, deferred, inflow, and net position. So accounts payable, okay, that's within reasonable difference. Liability for split interest trusts, okay, I would say that's still within reasonable. Other funds due, $500,000 and none. That's interesting. Endowment earnings payable to trust beneficiaries. All right. Total liabilities 21 and 21. Deferred inflow. Okay. Okay, that's strange. Doubled. Net positions, restricted non-expendables. That must be here. Restricted expendable. Okay. I wonder why it went up so much. It must have been a change in the percentage of value or payout. Okay, so unrestricted. Gotcha. So there's a difference here still of the same number that we saw above. So we're looking at 439 to 465. So I mean, you're still looking at a $25 million difference, and we see that total assets versus. That's interesting.
It is.
FY fast facts. This is interesting. These fast facts. So more than $465 million assets held by the largest public foundation in Idaho. Okay. 396 million assets managed in the CIT endowment pool. More than 27 million distributed to the University of Idaho for scholarships and academic programs during 23-24 year. 7.5% FY23 prelim total rate of return for the CIT. 6.7% 10-year annualized total rate of return for CIT. I wonder if that's what that income is, that $500,000 above is 10-year annualized, maybe. It could have to do with how their accounts are set up, their savings. More than 252 million endowment distribution for scholarships and programs.
Wait, look at that chart.
Yeah.
Total assets in millions over the years. What does CIT total assets mean, but compared to the yellow part?
Let's look it up. Assets of University of Idaho. So, okay, so hang on.
It's a bank?
I mean, if that is their banking group that they're tied to, maybe. I'm not sure. I have to verify. I don't believe so. It could just be who it's held through. Hang on. Yeah, I think that could just be who manages their assets. Which doesn't feel very. Ooh,
A collective investment trust, also called a collective investment fund, is a tax-exempt pooled investment vehicle.
Okay, that sounds good.
Yeah, I found something on it. It's from a website called Comerica. Yeah. CITs are increasingly attractive.
Citibank.
CITs are increasingly attractive investment option within retirement plans. CITs share many similarities with mutual funds, but do have some unique advantages. When reviewing investment options, considering CITs is a prudent, I don't know what that means, fiduciary, I don't know, decision. Comerica has been offering CITs for over 40 years, and our industry-leading customer service helps, their clients. So a collective investment trust, also called a collective investment fund, is a tax-exempt pooled investment vehicle. A defining feature for CITs is the sponsorship and maintenance that a trust company or trustee bank provides. Such trusts must be held by these institutions. CITs can be especially attractive investment option as they are both comparable in many ways to mutual funds, but also offer some unique and potentially valuable differences. Below is a closer look at this unique investment vehicle. So they date back to 1927, it looks like.
Yeah.
Do you understand what it is now?
Yeah. It's just a fund that sounds like it has to do with nonprofits essentially. So I can dig into it. Listen, nonprofits, I don't know anything when it comes to nonprofits financials. I know a baseline of financials. I can do P&Ls, whether they're small or on a huge tens of millions of dollars scale. But CITs, which are, it sounds like it's essentially used primarily
it's a trust.
Yeah. But what it sounds like is it's a trust that is tied to their board of directors and I would assume oversight committees that have to do with the nonprofit status. So I could be wrong though, you guys. I could be wrong. I don't know. This isn't my strong suit. So I personally have never dealt with any CITs before. So I just don't. I'm not a hundo on that. I'm not 100% on that one. But I see some people defining it in there also, and thank you for that. You guys.
So that word I couldn't pronounce is basically the person in charge of a trust. Okay. But yes, there's definitely good comments in there, like total assets equals current assets plus non-current assets, and based on accounting, total assets are also equal to total liabilities and total stockholders' equity. Interesting. So, do you find anything interesting based on that graph?
I mean, I find a whole bunch of interesting in here. I wish I could have the reports. I wish I could have their annuals, but it sounds like that reporter couldn't even get their annuals. So I don't know. I don't know. But it's definitely interesting, you guys. I find it very interesting, and you know, we're definitely gonna keep digging into this for sure. So
yeah, definitely. So there's nothing left on that you wanted to go over?
nope. We got more documents to dig into when it comes to this, that I'm sure we'll get into another time, because yeah, I agree that it is follow the money. That usually takes you exactly where you need to go. Yeah.
Yep. So we still have not seen a decision come from Judge on the closing the hearings, the upcoming hearings, which is interesting to me. What is going to happen with that, you know? So the next hearing is scheduled for 5/14, which is May 14th at 1:30 p.m. And it's about the motion to compel, and that's what that's what Bill Thompson has requested be closed.
Yeah. 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 I am so curious why. I am very curious why, because, you know, a lot of people out there right now within the Idaho 4 case and the Bryan Kohberger case have this idea that the prosecution is the reason why this case is so hidden and locked up. And it's not actually. It is actually the defense who wanted that primarily. I think both sides wanted it, but I think the defense has been fighting equally for it to remain hidden as the prosecution has. But this request is specifically the state and the prosecution saying, hey, we don't want anyone to see this. It's interesting. I wish I could know why.
Me too.
I wish I could know.
I really hope that the judge does not oblige him and close these hearings. But seeing how this case has gone so far, that he probably will. Yeah. But because I think there are real bombshells coming. These upcoming hearings, I think they're going to be serious. I think they're going to involve information that is absolutely vital to the case. And yeah,
I agree.
I would like to be a fly on the wall, but if they're close to the public, I think that means that not only is there no streaming, but no public is allowed in the gallery either.
Yeah.
Not even the families.
Yeah.
So, and I'm sure the families would not
shut
be
off to everyone for sure.
The families would not be happy with that, having multiple hearings being closed, but you would think anyway.
Yeah.
But
yeah, absolutely. But I hope everybody learned something tonight, and we appreciate every single one of you who came and hung out with us. And, you know, hopefully we are going to continue to get better and better and better. And, you know, we are working on quite a few things, and we are closing escrow on the new place. And, you know, it should be all good for the show. And I see a few new names in there, and welcome. And we're super happy to have you here. And hopefully you enjoyed the show. I would say tonight was a pretty standard show. We kind of talk about a little bit of everything on all the talk shows, anything of the important cases. Well, I shouldn't say that. That's probably offensive.
No, just very relevant current cases.
Not important cases, because every case is important. Every single case is important. But the cases that are the most popular right now in the media. So, but yeah, we appreciate all of you. Make sure you hit that thumbs up button. Make sure you hit those 3 stars, those 5 stars. Make sure you leave a comment under the video for our YouTubers. Share with family, friends, help us spread out there, help us grow our wings. And it's all because of you guys, and we appreciate all of you for it. At the end of the stream, the availability to comment will be there and ready for you. So yeah, hit those comments and follow us on social media. Make sure you hit subscribe and turn on notifications so it notifies you. That's one thing that YouTube hasn't been great about, and especially since we're having to deal with you know, the LE creators and stuff that don't want you to hear our content. So fight the good fight, keep it up, Thought Rioters, and we appreciate all of you.
Yes, thank you all for being here tonight, and we'll see you again next time.
Yes, we will see you on the next one.
Bye.